to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing.
What's going on, everybody? Today, we're going to talk about a few things. First, I'm going to give my reaction and analysis of Trump's speech last night to continue the war in Iran, or Iran, if you want to be very American, but Iran, if you want to be cultured. Not that it really matters right now, but anyway, that's what we're going to talk about first. Then we're going to talk about Trump told Erika Kirk that she should probably sue. I think he was talking about Drewski for that comedy skit. So I'm going to give my thoughts on that. And then there's some Artemis moon, not landing, but moon travel nearing or something. I don't know. I guess they don't want to land people on the moon anymore because Don Pettit said they had the technology and lost it. And it's a painful process to build back again or something like that. So I'm going to look at some videos of that and tell you if I actually believe it or not. And let me in the comment section, let me know if you believe it. Give me a thumbs up if it looks good and sounds good for the algorithm on the video. Dream Rare Podcast starts now. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you guys for being here. And if you get bored later and you're not doing anything, check out my tier list video. I rated everybody in Trump's administration from an A to an F. None of them got an A, so that should be an easy one to watch. But I think it's a great video. I think it's funny, and people do tier lists for other things like sports, video games, pretty much everything. But I've never seen anyone do it for politicians. So trying to bring in the trend, and yeah, I think not a lot of people saw it because it's a different type of video, so it's not in their algorithm. Without further ado, I'm not going to waste any more of your time. I'm just going to play the summary of Trump's video. I don't know if I'd call it the summary, but the main part of Trump's video, because for the most part, I listened to Trump's announcement. I wanted to see what he said, if he was going to pull out of the war or announce ground troops. He really didn't do any of that. He kind of just said the same 7 things he's been saying in loop. I don't even know what the point of the press conference even really was. There was almost no new information, and it just sounded like every press conference with Trump. So I don't get what it was for necessarily, but here is the clip that really stood out to me. And then, I do feel very strongly about the way that him and Pete Hegseth are acting and talking. So I will tell you how I feel. Here it is.
It made clear from the beginning of Operation Epic Fury that we will continue until our objectives are fully achieved. Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group.
So that was probably the biggest standout of his entire speech. He said that he was going to bring them back to the Stone Age, and Pete Hegseth said it as well. Julius with the $20 super chat. Thank you, Julius. I appreciate you. Thanks, Julius. When it comes to that part of Hegseth and Trump talking about bombing them back to the Stone Age, if it were just the leadership, like, listen, we are going to destroy their military. We're going to destroy their leaders who are trying to attack us. We're going to go after their military bases, their weapons manufacturers, their weapons, everything in that category. I would say I understand. Obviously, people could agree or disagree on what we're doing in the Middle East or if we should even be there. But there's a difference, in my view, between saying we're going to wipe out their military and their leadership and saying we're going to bomb a country back to the Stone Age. Iran has over 90 million people. It's currently not in the Stone Age. When you watch television shows and propaganda stuff, they'll convince you that like everybody in the Middle East is like humping a goat and they all have like no houses and they live in huts. And that's not the case, but especially for, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, I'm sure parts of Jordan I've heard are really nice. Obviously, Israel is developed, but Same with Iran. It's very developed, or Iran. If I say it one way, I sound too American. The other way, I just sound a little too cultured. But with Iran, it's a nice, clean, safe country. I know there's bad parts about it. I'm not sitting here acting like it's perfect, but to bomb a country like that back into the Stone Age is a threat, not just to the leadership, but to their entire civilization. And I don't know, listening to that whole speech and watching how Pete Hegseth acts, I'm ashamed, really. I'm ashamed of my country. I'm ashamed of my leadership. And one thing that I've noticed, if you say you're ashamed of Joe Biden or the war in Iran, right? Or I'm sorry, the war in Ukraine, you say, listen, I don't like Joe Biden. He's an embarrassing leader. He's like drooling over himself. He can't walk up a set of stairs. He's falling off a bicycle. He's like, I saw this video of Joe Biden today where he's talking at a beer factory and he's like, oh, beer, the beer, you know, the Rockies. Like, it's fun. It's actually really funny going back and watching Biden videos because he was so like not even there. But you're allowed to say, I'm embarrassed. That's embarrassing. Not because I hate my country, but because I love my country. And I don't think our country, our civilization, our founding fathers, our constitution, the millions of great people we have here, I don't think Joe Biden's the perfect representation of who we are. In fact, I feel humiliated every time that he spoke. When I say that, most people, you know, on the MAGA side, they're like, no, yeah, I agree. It doesn't make you anti-American to think that our leadership is retarded when they are literally retarded. I agree. And then with the Ukraine war, you know, this idea that if you disagree with funding Zelensky and fighting this proxy war against Russia through Ukraine, most of MAGA disagreed with that. And when you pointed that out, no one would be like, I mean, of course, there would be mainstream media propagandists and people who have vested interest in the Ukraine war would say, oh, yeah, you're anti-American if you don't agree with the Ukraine war. But most of MAGA and most Trump supporters didn't agree with that. And they would agree with me and say, no, it doesn't make you a hater to not want to fund Ukraine. It seems like a mismanagement of the United States resources. And I think for a lot of older people and even some younger people, it's hard to admit how much is a lie. Like, I'm going to play a clip of Glenn Beck later. Glenn Beck is watching the, you know, Artemis launch and he's literally crying. Glenn Beck, besides being the I think he might be the red heifer that Israel wants. We've been talking about that on my show. Israel wants to like sacrifice a red heifer with like perfect red fur in order to bring back like the Mashiach or something. I don't know exactly what they're doing over there, but they need a red heifer really bad. And the more I look at Glenn Beck, besides like a boomer, he's a heifer too, because he's kind of chunky, but he's the red heifer. And he's just like watching the moon like thing and just crying like tears of just joy. And I'm thinking to myself, don't cry too hard. It might mess up your red heifer skin, and then Israel can't use you for the, you know, Armageddon. But besides that, I'm just thinking to myself, it's hard to explain to somebody that old that their entire worldview is a lie. Today, someone was like, if we didn't fight in World War II, the whole world would have been speaking German. That's literally not true. That's the dumbest propaganda talking point ever. I understand you can make your case for World War II. Most people would. We fought alongside the communists who killed even more people than Hitler. Then we created the UN, which was basically a socialist world global communist jump off, which our founding fathers never intended. We worked with the most communist countries in the world. And then the entire America, Canada, Europe allegiance became flooded with migrants and more socialist and more liberal. And they completely lost nationalism or any sort of national identity because we fought with the people who were on the Bolshevik side. You know, so there's an argument to be made that, the entire problem we see in the West now stems from that. But let's just say you don't believe that, right? You just agree that Winston Churchill was like amazing, even though he looked like Glenn Beck and he was a heifer too, but he was amazing. We fought everybody and then we created like peace and we saved it's like, okay, sure. But you really believe the whole world would have been speaking German? This is the same level of propaganda as the people today that are saying, if we didn't step in Ukraine, the whole world would have been speaking Russia because Putin wants to take over the whole world. They're using the same exact narratives that they used for World War II. I'm not like the biggest fan of Putin. I'm not Russian. I've never been to Russia. I have no like ethnic nor any sort of allegiance to Russia whatsoever. It's a country I really don't think much about, especially before the war. But Putin is not trying to make the whole world speak Russian. So the point, I know I spoke in a kind of a circle, but I want to not just speak to people who agree with me, which obviously I appreciate. That's my core audience. But the people that don't understand where I'm coming from, because it's I don't know if I'd call it hypocrisy, but the people that would say, I'm allowed to not like the president when it's Joe Biden. I'm allowed to think that Democrats are an embarrassment to our country. I'm allowed to disagree with the Ukraine war. But then when I say Skeet Hegseth, the greasy, somebody pulled this up recently and they finally nailed it. I knew I recognized Pete Hegseth or Skeet Hegseth from somewhere. Shout out to Kirkpatrick on Twitter. He's literally Stifler. I knew he was like a sloppy, embarrassing, like low IQ golden goy or something for the Israel lobby. I knew he was like an embarrassment to our country, but I didn't realize until that picture that he's literally Stifler. So now it makes total sense why I'm like, it was ingrained in my head that he's not a smart guy. He had an acting career. He gave it all up to be the Secretary of War. So thank you for your sacrifice, Stifler. But yeah, I'm embarrassed and I'm humiliated by Trump and Pete Hegseth, because this is the type of leader that I would like. Obviously not Joe Biden, but if we're going to go to war, if we're going to kill people, right? If we're going to conquer countries or take over areas, I'm okay with that as long as I can make a national or a moral case with it. And if I can't make a moral case with it, I might not support it because I'm a pretty moral guy, or I try to be. And if there's not a moral case to be made, if there's at least like a national interest case to be made, then it's like, okay, maybe it's not the most moral thing, but over time, it's the greatest thing for our nation. I think about all of these things, and I personally like leaders that are intellectually in depth. Like, I hate to say it, but when Putin was speaking to Tucker Carlson, his entire ideology and understanding of everything was super intellectual, super in depth, super deep and sophisticated. And he's like, if you want to understand how I got here, let me walk you through like 100 years of our history between us and Ukraine, because this is extremely deep stuff. We share a lot of ancestry. Like, even if you disagree with him, there's a deep reason for what he did. You listen to some of these leaders in Iran and people like Gaddafi, who they murdered, and all of these people that they're making us hate, and then they're going out and basically trying to kill. You listen to them and they sound smarter than Joe Biden. Honestly, smarter than Trump. Trump is charming and funny in his own way. Like, he definitely is a standout in his prime. We're talking prime Aaron Rodgers. We're talking prime Trump here. Prime Trump, 2017 Twitter Trump. There's nobody smarter. I think, like, maybe not nobody smarter. That's an exaggeration. Nobody funnier. But he mastered the art of short communication, but it was intelligent. I didn't feel like Trump was stupid. Now when I listen to Trump and Skeet Hegseth, it's like, bomb, we're blowing up the negotiators. Okay, you want to send them back to the Stone Age? If you walk through their narrative, they don't even feel like they have to explain it to people that don't just agree with everything they say. At first, I'm just letting you guys know, at first they tried a basically covert revolution in Iran. Of course, there's people who don't like the leadership of Iran. I'm not saying there's not. Just like in America, there's probably 50 to 100 million people who hate Donald Trump and would go out into the streets to try to, overthrow him with their like Women's March or the No Kings protest or something. In Iran, of course, there's a lot of people who didn't like the regime and don't like the regime. But also there was influence from the West where they were trying to basically do a color revolution. And this happens in so many countries. It's documented fact. I think it happened in Ukraine. They killed hundreds of people. They overthrew the leader, and that paved the way for Zelensky. So this is a common thing that the United States does when they don't want to overtly just bomb a country. They start funding groups. I mean, you look at the Middle East, listen to Joe Ken explain it. Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, ISIS, a lot of these groups were either started with United States weaponry like Al-Qaeda or spawned in the creation of that, because we were funding these rebel groups to overthrow these countries. So that's just kind of what we do. We did it in Syria. We did it in, I'm sure, Libya, other parts of the world. So in Iran, they were trying to do that earlier this year, last year. I don't think Trump wants a full-blown war. I think he knew that it would look bad for him. So they tried it I wouldn't say peaceful way, but the sneakier way at first. So when all of these people, Mike Pompeo's tweeting out, Iran, there's Mossad agents in the streets, we're watching. It's like, all right, well, that's a weird thing to put on Twitter, but thanks for explaining what we already knew. And then you hear all of these Zionists say they're killing thousands and tens of thousands of people, and oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. They were hoping that the covert color revolution combined with the semi not really organic, actual Iranian protests and such like that, they were hoping it could overthrow the country. Bear with me. There's a reason I'm saying all this. While that was happening, the narrative was, we want to help the Iranian people. We are concerned about them. We think that women do not have rights. All of the sodomites in Trump's administration were saying we want sodomy and feminism and liberalism and homosexuality to flood the streets of Tehran. We hate the fact that they're conservative and religious, even though that's literally what Christians were until they became Judeo-Christians and weirdly attached to a religion that thinks that Jesus is boiling in hot poop for eternity. And weirdly, all the pornographic sites are owned by a certain group, that is like the antithesis of Christianity. But anyway, it's just so important for Zionist Christians and Zionist donors to bring liberalism, feminism, sodomy, and homosexuality to Iran or something. So the whole narrative that they were pumping was, we need to free the people. We love the people there. We care so deeply about Iranians. And you had people like Mark Levin that obviously he doesn't care that much about the average Iranian person. I think he would, I'm not trying to speak for him, but let's just say other people like Andrew Klavan have said that they want to wipe the entire country off the map. Like, they don't care at all an iota about these citizens. They care about Israel, and they're willing to do literally anything in order to secure what they consider the security of that country. So when I saw Mark Levin on Twitter being like, I just really care about Iranian people, I'm just laughing to myself. I'm like, are people this stupid that they actually think that Mark Levin just really cares about Iranians? So the color revolution didn't work. The funding of, protests in Iran didn't work. So then they went to the second thing, which was the war. And, they started blowing stuff up. They killed the leader. They did all this stuff. And then Trump says he didn't want regime change, but regime change has happened. Sort of, it's sort of happened in the sense of the regime that was there, he killed a lot of the leaders, but a full regime change has not happened. He doesn't have somebody like in Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, who just like listens to everything he says. Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela is like, happy Passover, Shabbat Shalom. Please don't, kidnap me in sweatpants like Maduro. So then, in Iran, their regime hasn't completely changed. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. I don't think that's what Trump or anybody wants. Obviously, Europe, why would they want it? But Europe doesn't even want to get involved. That's how much they disagree with Trump on this. Anyway, they tried to do a regime change covertly. It didn't work. They overtly tried to do a regime change, and they killed a lot of leaders, and it didn't work. And now we're at a place where the regime didn't really change. Every time we try to negotiate, either America or Israel kills the negotiator. Joe Kent talked about this a lot, because I'm not going to say that America has no part in this, because at this point, I think our government is completely captured by the Israeli government, but there's like no daylight between Trump and all his handlers and Netanyahu. So at this point, I think they control our government, or Trump doesn't disagree with him on anything. So they're trying to stop a negotiation. They're trying to kill anybody that you could talk to keep us at this war, to prolong it, I guess, whatever their objectives are. But when Trump now says, the reason I said all that to get to this part, now him and Pete Hegseth are saying we're going to bomb them into the Stone Ages. That doesn't just sound like he's trying to bomb their leadership. It sounds like he's trying to destroy their entire infrastructure of a successful country of 90 million people that's clean, that's pretty safe, that's modern. Like, Iran is not a shithole country by any means. I think people that watch the news think that it's not. And he just wants to bomb it into the Stone Age. So it's like, that didn't work. We're not even going to pretend. We're going to pretend like we care about the citizens for a month straight. Once that doesn't work, now we're just going to show our true colors and be like, you know what? We're going to send the entire country back into the Stone Ages. It's embarrassing to me. It's humiliating. I think it's clear, at least to me, that of course there's bad people in other countries. I think there's bad people in Iran. There's bad people in the Middle East. There's bad people all over the world, right? I'm not a self-hating person. Like, we're so bad, everyone's so good. Everyone's not good. That's not how the world works, and I'm not ashamed to be an American. However, I am embarrassed by our leadership because I believe, based on everything that I've seen and saw and just, continue to see, that Israel has a certain culture that is not necessarily American traditional culture, in the sense of, if you look up, it's hard to find because AI will tell you that this is true, but then they try to like make a cover story for it because they're trying to explain it away. But reports are showing that Israel has killed more journalists than in World War I and World War II. They're killing negotiators, they kill civilians, they kill women, they kill children. They don't care. They will declare somebody Amalek and try to wipe out their whole bloodline, and they have absolutely no boundaries to what they're willing to do to other people. And then they treat other people so terribly that they get paranoid, and they're like, we got to wipe them all out because their kids are going to hate us, and their kids are going to hate us because of what we did to them. So that's kind of their standard. That was not an American standard. I mean, maybe you could say that it was, just to take some self accountability. Like, maybe that's what America did to the Native Americans. I don't think it's completely true, but America doesn't have a perfect history. So let's just say that we have our share of doing messed up things. But in the modern world, I think that's not something that we were really doing to that extent. But now that Trump is basically attached at the hip with Israel, him and Pete Hegseth act like Israelis. They just have bloodlust. They went, Trump, if you listen to him a year or two ago, and I think that this is the most intellectually offensive thing that Trump has done. I'm not offended, but intellectually offensive. Him and Pete Hegseth act like they don't understand where people are coming from that disagree with them. And all you have to do to understand the millions of people who disagree with you is listen to Trump on the campaign trail. Go back and look at old Stephen Miller tweets. Literally, nearly everyone in Trump's administration campaigned on Kamala's going to start World War II. Kamala's going to attack Iran. Kamala's going to create World War III. Kamala's the neocon. Kamala's the one that hangs out with Liz Cheney. Kamala's actually a George Bush, establishment type. She's playing both sides. It's Kamala who's going to do all this stuff. Trump is the negotiator. Trump is the peace president. Trump wants to end the Ukraine war within 24 hours, and he wants Israel to wrap up what they're doing because he doesn't want to be a part of it, and he wants to, figure out a negotiation. It's obvious what we think because we think what Trump campaigned on and what Stephen Miller talked about. There's tweets of Stephen Miller that you would think was Dave Smith or Tucker Carlson just 6-7 months ago. So that's what a lot of us were looking for. And, I would consider, I don't have the official government definition of terrorism because I think it just means whoever they want to kill. But to me, a terrorist is just somebody who will kill women, kill children, kill civilians, kill journalists. They have no standards whatsoever. They're not just fighting military battles. They're just crazy. They want to just kill innocent people all the time. That's what I think of as a terrorist. And I think America and Israel act like terrorists. I think that Pete Hegseth and Trump, they talk like terrorists now. This measured, I want to strike a deal. I don't want to do this, but I have to. That Trump is gone. That Trump and Pete Hegseth doesn't exist anymore. They have this insatiable bloodlust where they're like, we're going to turn them into the Stone Age. You're going to turn a country, a nice, modern country into the Stone Age. You're going to bomb a civilization and their infrastructure into the Stone Age and destroy the lives of 90 million people. And then you have people that are so brainwashed by like Zionist media that they're like, this is what the people want. You think the people of Iran want their infrastructure to be bombed by Trump and Pete Hegseth so they go back to the literal Stone Age? Like it's disgusting. And this, even when Trump was kind of a warmonger, he was a warmonger with a soul, which is what every president should be. Like, I have a military. I don't have it for no reason. I'm going to defend our country. But at the same time, I don't want to kill women and children and bomb infrastructure and hurt people's water supply. I don't want to do that. But at the same time, I will take out your military. I will take out your weapons. I will take out your leaders if I have to. I don't want to, but I will if I have to. But I'm going to spare the women. I'm going to spare the children. I'm going to spare the innocents. That's what Trump used to be. And now he's surrounded by neocons, Zionists, war hawks, bloodlust psychopaths, and Trump has become a bloodlust psychopath. Him and Pete Hegseth, every time I hear them talk, there's no grace, not that you need grace necessarily to be a military leader, but there's no depth. You listen to other leaders, there's depth, there's intelligence, there's a thought process. You listen to them, they just sound like cartoon characters from the Looney Tunes who just want to blow stuff up with TNT. They sound like terrorists. They act like terrorists. They talk like terrorists. They have no objectives anymore besides like, yeah, we don't want them to have this, but at the same time, we're going to blow them up into the Stone Age. Do you have to do that to take out their nuclear weapons? You have to blow a civilization of 90 million people hundreds of years into the past and hurt and destroy the lives of tens of millions of people. It's insane. And then the media convinces people that the people there want this. The people there don't want that. Some people probably want some things because it's a country of 90 million people, but Trump and Republicans are going to lose the next election. I guarantee you they're going to lose the House. I would bet that they're going to lose the Senate. That means a majority of voters don't want the Republicans in. Does that mean another country should blow up all our infrastructure because we don't like our leaders? And right now, I'll just say I don't like Biden or Trump. I think the Democrats and the Republican Party are both controlled by Israel. But I don't want a foreign country to blow up our infrastructure. That would be insane. Why would I ever want that? That's horrible. I do not want that. Nobody wants that. I don't want any of that. I want to do it on my own. And I want not the infrastructure, but the elections. Like, I want us to be able to have a regime change through an election and through our country deciding that we want new politicians, voting for Thomas Massie over the donors. Like, why in the world would I want another country to just like hurt my infrastructure? So maybe some Iranians want that for their country, but I would think that a large majority of Iranians do not want that. And I would guess, I don't know for sure, that us attacking them has now probably brought them closer to their country because they're seeing what happens. They say that it was a mistake, and I hope that it was, obviously, but let's just say you believe that it wasn't America or Israel, or I think it was America on this one, but the school being blown up. If you're an Iranian and you see a school of young women or like girls being blown up, is that going to make you like America more? Be like, oh, yeah, they just blew up a school of kids. Like, now I really support their regime. Like, it's only driving more support to the regime. I think the regime had less support before the war, and more of a chance of an uprising from the actual people over time, especially with the sanctions the United States was putting on them, because we do this to countries like Cuba and Iran, not to say that they're perfect. Of course they're not, but we hurt them financially. And then the people start getting pissed off at their leaders because they're poor. And then the people want to uprise. So that's usually our way of destroying a country. We destroy it financially, economically. And people want a leader that doesn't do that. But that's part of our plan as well. Yeah, I don't like the way they talk. They sound like terrorists to me. They talk like terrorists, and I don't like terrorists of any kind. I don't want anybody to hurt any innocent people. Like, that sounds crazy to me. Honorable war is when men fight men. Honorable war is not when military men are totally fine with destroying a civilization of hundreds of millions of people. And when you listen to, of course, obviously, I don't just believe everything I hear from other people, but you listen to certain other leaders and they're like, we don't want to do this. Like, Putin in Ukraine is like, I don't want to hurt Ukrainians. I consider them basically my own ethnicity. Why would I want to hurt white Christian people who are very similar to Russians? Like, why would I want to do that? And of course, he's a shrewd guy and he could lie. I'm sure he's a liar in many ways, but it's believable. It's like, why would Putin want to blow up a bunch of people that are basically almost Russians? It's like the closest thing to a Russian. That whole area is very similar, and they have a shared history. And then you listen to like Iran, and of course, I'm sure their leaders just don't want to get blown up by Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, their leaders are like, we don't have a problem with the American people. We don't want this to happen, but this is what they're doing. And I'm not saying that their backs against the wall. They're probably afraid of getting blown up like all their other leaders. But then you listen to Trump and Pete Hegseth, and there's no depth at all to what they're saying. We're not trying to hurt these people, the innocent people. We're only going after their They're not saying that. They're expanding more and more. They're actually getting excited about it. We're going to send you back to the Stone Age. We're going to blow up all your stuff. We're going to ruin your country completely. So what's really going on when our leaders are sounding the most insane? And then people like Marco Rubio, someone with the $5 super chat said, for all the times I've hit repeat on don't play. Thank you. Hey, Yos, every time. Appreciate you. Then you listen to people like Marco Rubio, and they're like, oh, imagine if Iran spent money on their own people instead of weapons. Imagine how great Iran would be. Does Marco Rubio have no self-awareness whatsoever? Imagine if the United States of America over the last 30 years didn't fight all these wars for Israel and their Zionist donors in Iraq and in Libya and Syria and Afghanistan. Only God knows what the Ukraine war is about, but that has nothing to do with us. In my view, it's not helping us whatsoever. Imagine if we spent money on our own people. Our healthcare system is a mess. Even though I think that socialists and liberals are wrong about universal health care, because I do think government health care would be terrible and it's hard to fund certain things, it's hard to even argue with liberals anymore because it's like, yeah, we don't have the money to do this stuff. Yeah, no, I agree. But somehow we have the money for Ukraine, but liberals for some reason support that money. Somehow we have the money for Israel. Republicans support that money, but liberals don't. It's like, we have money to spend on a war, $2 billion a day. But then when it comes to like rebuilding airports and stuff, now all of a sudden we don't have the money. So it's why even argue with people over what we do and don't have money for when we're spending trillions upon trillions upon trillions on these wars that I think we spent over $1 trillion in Afghanistan. And now all of our leaders say it was a mistake. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. Trump's speech, and I want to connect all this stuff too. Trump's speech yesterday reminded me of the speech, just in the energy of it and the darkness of it. It reminded me of when I wanted Trump to open the country. I did all the research. I knew they were lying, and I was pushing for the government to stop with the, 15 days to slow the spread. And Trump, after 15 days, got up on stage next to Fauci and Birx and his handlers and said, I'm gonna extend the guidelines to lock down the states until May. And I was like, no, we're cooked. Like, I was so disappointed in Trump. Thank you, Holly, for the super chat. I'm just gonna put it on the screen for a little bit, then I'm gonna take it off. I was so disappointed in the coldness of his speech, and I knew that he caved to the bad people, and then he told states to lock down for another month. This is sort of similar in the sense of just he sounded weak, he sounded tired, he sounded lazy, and his speech didn't really say anything. He didn't say we were coming out. He didn't say we were staying. It reminded me of like he has to address the nation, and we're going to stay for another month or so in Iran at least. With that being said, the fact that our government will admit that we made a mistake with every other Middle Eastern war, but not this one, is also just like with COVID. For years, they gaslit us. For years, they lied to us. For years, it was obvious. For years, all you had to do was look outside the propaganda and outside of, all of the nonsense they were pushing and just do your own research and your own science and your own math, because a lot of the science was a third grade math equation. It's not like you had to be Albert Einstein or like, Watson and Crick or anything. But then after it was all over, they were just like, oh, yeah, we probably didn't need mask mandates. Well, it's a little too late. You pushed it for 2 years and, hundreds of millions of people got vaccinated when they didn't really want to. And now you're admitting all this stuff. It's a little late for that. So it's like they did that with all of the wars in the Middle East. This administration has admitted that they were all a lie. They were all wrong and they were all basically fake. Same with the lockdown, same with the mandates, same with the vaccines. But now this one is right. We're 0 for 70. Netanyahu was in front of Congress and, the world for 30 years saying a week away. They weren't a week away in 1990s. They weren't a week away in the 2000s. They weren't weeks away in 2011. They weren't weeks away in 2017. They weren't weeks away in 2020. But Fox News and Murdoch Media and, Ellis and CBS now it's true, even though it wasn't. Like the chances of this all being true, everything they're saying, is like 1 in a million at this point. Yeah, I don't know for sure what the truth is and what's not true, but it's just a math equation. If he said it for 40 years on loop and it never happened, the chances of it just now magically being the right time, maybe it's possible. But I didn't like the speech. I didn't like Trump's I didn't like his energy. I thought he sounded old. I thought he sounded unconfident. And I really just don't like him and Pete Hegseth's bloodlust. I think it's a stain on our country, just like Joe Biden was. If you're going to take out militaries, you're going to take out weapons, you're going to lose troops, you're going to fight and, kill people in other countries, you have to do it in a way that has depth and show at least me and the public that you're not evil. We don't want to do evil in the world, but the more they talk, the more evil they sound. They don't care about civilians. They don't care about other countries, and not to blame a foreign nation, because this is Trump's responsibility and Pete Hegseth's responsibility. But this is really the Israeli mindset. They're fine with taking out Palestine. They're fine with doing whatever they want to Lebanon. They're fine with bulldozing Christian, statues that they don't like. They're fine with stealing people's land. They're fine with, killing them in prisons. That's how they think. Every ethnicity and group and religion has a right to like themselves more than everyone else. But Israelis, they don't care about anybody else. All they do is care about themselves. And then they just do whatever they want to other people. If that's who Trump and Pete Hegseth want to be, somebody that's willing to wipe out 90 million people in order to appease Jeffrey Epstein's friends, then they can do that. But I don't have to agree with it. I want to be on record saying I'm disgusted by what Trump's saying. I'm disgusted by what Pete Hegseth is saying. And I'm fine with them taking out leaders and military targets. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's the right thing to do because I don't think they're moral at all. But that's a lot more honorable, or at least less evil, than telling a country of 90 million people you're going to knock them back into the Stone Age. They both talk like terrorists, and it's a huge stain on our country. I'm going to play another clip of Trump. He admitted recently that he's very easy to trick and fool, and that all you have to do is be nice to him, and he doesn't care if you're an evil person. He'll defend you. And this is an insight to who Trump really is, because sometimes I'm like, is he dumb? Is he just very easy to flatter? Is it like this orchestrated WWE show where Trump was always in on it? Was he not in on it and they compromised him more recently? It's hard to really tell, but when Trump talks like this, it makes me lean towards they actually were mad at Trump years ago because they didn't think they could control Trump. And then every neocon, every Zionist, every deep stater, every person figured out, oh, wait, Trump's actually super, super easy to control. You just have to be nice to him, and he'll, you just can't yell at him and be mean. You have to play the nice game. So that's what I think probably happened to Trump. Listen to this clip. It's fascinating. He says this stuff out loud and doesn't realize that it makes him a retard.
We've made clear from the beginning of Operation Epic Fury that we will continue until our objectives are fully achieved. Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original.
That's the wrong one. Sorry about that. This is it.
And the other thing, this was not part of what I wanted to do, but we've done it, I guess, through sheer force of personality. We have a regime change like nobody thought was possible. They said, what do you mean you have regime change? My friend, great show. I love this guy. He's so nice to me. Every time I watch, and I appreciate. We're not supposed to be seduced that way, right? But I am. When somebody's nice to me, I love that person. Even if they're bad people, I couldn't care less. I'll fight to the end for them. So I appreciate it. But, I want to see no nuclear weapon, but we also won regime change. They said.
So he saw somebody in the audience, some media person that's probably a demon, and he points to him and says, maybe I shouldn't be this way, but if somebody's nice to me, I'll fight for them. I don't care if they're a bad person. And it's like, yeah, he's 80 now. I think he's always been a very honest person on stage, but I think he's getting older and older, and he's starting to have Biden moments where he's saying stuff that he probably shouldn't. Maybe he's always been that way. He's always been kind of a straight shooter, but I like the transparency. He's like, yep, that guy's a bad guy, but I will defend him till the end of my day because he's nice to me. When I interviewed Vivek Ramaswamy, he tried to use these tactics to me. I was trying to do journalism, and he tried to just flatter me, compliment me. Because most people, it's not just Trump, honestly. Like, most people in the podcasting circuit are that stupid. All you have to do is like suck up to them, and then they think they're your best friend. I'm not trying to compete, but think of all the people that you guys listen to that fell for Vivek Ramaswamy, that never questioned him, that never gave him a journalistic interview, that just wanted to be friends with him, and then they never asked him any tough questions. And then a year or two later, they're like, I got tricked by him. Well, why don't you ask Anomaly why Anomaly didn't get tricked? That's me. I'm sorry for talking third person. That's very Trump of me, super douchey. But I could see right through it. But also, I'm willing to be loyal to my friend. It's not like I'm just gonna talk shit to everybody I see in a podcast. But Vivek Ramaswamy is not my friend. I didn't know him. He's a pharmaceutical billionaire, and he's running for president of the United States. So to me, my job is not to act like I'm best friends with a pharmaceutical billionaire who came out of nowhere, who's lying to everybody, and who's trying to be the vice president or president or governor of Ohio. My job is to do journalism. It's like, thank you for being nice, but I still have questions about your Axovant and your pharmaceutical past and the book you wrote calling Trump a sore loser like Stacey Abrams. Like, that's what I want to talk about, not you flattering me. So Vivek did that to me, and most people, even watching, there's a lot of people that were like, dude, I thought you were being mean. I thought you were wrong for a year, and then I realized that you were right. I know these tactics. It's called over flattering someone to get them to stop asking tough questions. So with Trump, he's the easiest person to flatter. You just say something nice to him, you just suck up to him. And now that he said that publicly, I do believe that the neocons and the Zionists and the Israel lobby and, the deep staters, in his first term, they were nasty to him from the start because he was someone that they didn't know very well, in the sense of like, maybe he really won't take our money. Maybe he really won't sell out. He just called Marco Rubio an Adelson puppet. Like, that's never been done before. Trump really, this is why people like Trump, and I get it, even though I don't like him now. He really was a renegade. Whether he meant it or not, that's for him to decide, but he really was the only guy who ever broke the third wall of politics. Ron Paul did, but they just didn't allow Ron Paul to elevate that much. And Ron Paul was so nice that they just blackballed him and blacklisted him. With Trump, he's got that like arrogant personality, so they weren't able to shut Trump down, and he did expose a lot of stuff. So when Trump first got in, the whole Russiagate stuff was to make him not get along with Russia, because they've had this war with Ukraine planned for a long time, using Ukraine as a proxy. So I truly actually do believe, even though Trump did sell out, I think at first they were nervous. Neocons hated him. Mark Levin didn't like him. Ben Shapiro didn't like him. Lindsey Graham didn't like him. Nobody liked Donald Trump. And I think the reason was they didn't know whether Trump would play ball or not. And the more nasty they were to Trump, I don't think Mark Levin was just playing a character. I think he really did get pissed off, because they know that there's other politicians that they for sure control. Why would you want to take a risk with Donald Trump that you're not really sure about? But then as time went on, and as the neocons and the Zionists and those types, they realized we can't fight Trump and beat Trump. It's impossible. The more you fight him, the more he wins. Like, he's like a beast that no one can conquer. Even Ron DeSantis, he'll tell more truth sometimes, and Trump's like, shut up, you're gay. And then everyone's like, Ron's gay, we're voting for Trump. Like, it doesn't even matter. Trump will beat everybody at this game. So I think I don't know when this happened or at what year, but they all realized, oh, wait, let's just suck up to him. Let's just go to his events and tell him how good he looks. Let's just tell him he's the smartest goy we've ever met in the world. He's the golden goy. He's the smartest. He's the most handsome. He's the best. He's the best dressed. He's the richest. He's the bravest. He gets the Israel award. Mike Johnson's giving him an award now. He said he made an America First award for Trump. They figured out this guy's a retard. All you have to do is just be super, super nice to him. That's all he wants. He's busy. He's rich. He knows a lot of people. He doesn't want more conflict in his life. All he wants are people to be nice to him. So slowly but surely, his entire cabinet is now neocons. And Trump, I don't even know if he's posting on True Social anymore, or he's got some handler posting for him, because every time Megyn Kelly beefs with Mark Levin publicly, Megyn Kelly's like, you have a small pee-pee. And then Mark Levin's like, oh yeah, I heard you're really good at giving blowjobs. And I'm like, what? Like, what? How, like, dude, Mark Levin has such like bad diss game. I'm not even joking. Like, Megyn Kelly keeps saying he has a small pee-pee, which is totally inappropriate, by the way. I condemn, calling people's pee-pees out. That's weird. No, I don't. It's very childish, and they're like both like 60, but whatever. And then Mark Levin's like, I heard your deep throat game's on fire. Like, it's like, and then some guy called him small pee-pee, and he called the guy banana. Someone's like, your pee-pee's small, and he's like, your pee-pee big like banana. It's like, I don't think you understand how dissing someone works. If they diss you, you're supposed to say something like mean. You're not supposed to give them like a strange compliment. You're like, yeah, if mine's a pee-pee, then yours banana. All right. And then, and then the guy just like walks away. He's like, that was so weird, dude. That was the strangest diss battle I've ever had in my life. But anyway, every time Megyn Kelly beefs with, Mark Levin, Trump posts Mark Levin. It's like Trump is Mark Levin now, essentially, not literally, but it's like Mark needs help. Trump helps him. Yesterday, Tucker Carlson, one of the biggest podcasts of the world, had Dave Smith, one of the most America first libertarian Jewish Americans that we have, right? Dave Smith's very popular. Tucker Carlson's very popular. And I bring up the fact that Dave Smith is Jewish because I think even if he wasn't, he would be extremely effective. But I think because he's Jewish, he's like even more of a threat to Zionism because he's a non-Zionist Jewish American, America first libertarian guy. So they like hate Dave extra much because they do call him an anti-Semite, but it doesn't really make sense. It's like, he's Jewish. Like, why are you saying that? But whatever, he's on Tucker Carlson, and he mentions on Tucker Carlson's podcast yesterday that Charlie Kirk texted him after he debated Douglas Murray, who's this like Israel lobby shill, but he debated Douglas Murray, and Charlie texted Dave and said, dude, you crushed it. Basically, I don't want to like say exactly what he said. Dave's explained it before, but essentially he texted Dave to like kind of privately let Dave know, like, I agree with you. Like, I know I'm like known as like the Zionist, like Israel guy, but like, you crushed him, and I don't really disagree with what you're saying. So as soon as Dave Smith on the biggest podcast of the world says that Charlie agreed with Dave Smith over Douglas Murray, Trump goes to Truth Social and he shares an article written by Douglas Murray that says, Tucker stabbed Trump in the back or something. It's like, dude, Trump is the Israel lobby now. The Israel lobby has always been breathing down the neck of every president, and they're like, okay, I'll do what you want. But I don't think we've ever had a president who literally is the Israel lobby. Like, Trump is the embodiment of the Israel lobby. Let me give you an example. Ron DeSantis is, sold out to the Israel lobby. Ron DeSantis passes their speech bills into Florida. He's in no way, shape, or form like not working with them. But even though Ron DeSantis is a sellout, he doesn't hate Thomas Massie. He likes Thomas Massie. He would never probably campaign against Thomas Massie because he's like providing some resistance, even if it's a little bit. Trump provides no resistance to the Israel lobby. He literally just bends over, spreads, and says, run it through me. Whatever you want, I'll do. I am you. Like, he's literally the worst. Trump is basically Mark Levin meets Lindsey Graham with a gayer YMCA dance routine. He's like, why? Yeah. And his fans were like, yeah, he's dancing to the gayest song ever. I'm not going to lie. YMCA is an American classic. There's nothing wrong with dancing to it just because the Village People were gay. Just like Queen. If you don't know every word to Bohemian Rhapsody, you're wrong. And there's nothing gay about knowing it. But just like Trump obsessing over the YMCA so much is just kind of sus. I like the YMCA. If it comes on, I'm on a cruise, I'm probably dancing. But I'm not going to turn the YMCA into my theme song. You imagine like a UFC fighter walking out to the YMCA. It's like, all right, bro, we all like the YMCA. We all want to dance to it, but it shouldn't be your theme song. It's Trump's theme song. It's the only song he likes. He's like, ha, 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 ha. You're like, Okay, all right. And then his fan base is like, yeah, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen since the last Kid Rock concert. Like, it's not that cool. I made this the other day. This is like this the Simpson meme where it's like, is it weird that I now have the same foreign policy as Lindsey Graham, Mark Levin, the Rothschilds, and Ben Shapiro? Nah, it's those darn kids who are wrong. It's like, how does MAGA not realize that everyone that they didn't like 5 years ago is literally who's like, it's the greatest speech ever? I think Mark Levin tweeted, it's the best. This is the best speech. Lindsey Graham was like, it was a perfect speech. But if you ask like 90% of MAGA 5 years ago, you're like, do you like Lindsey Graham? They're like, no. I mean, Lindsey Graham gets booed at Trump rallies. Nobody likes Lindsey Graham, but Trump is Lindsey Graham, and MAGA doesn't realize it. It's absolutely insane. I want to show you another thing that people don't realize because I find it fascinating. If you post Marjorie Taylor Greene now to like a boomer who doesn't like her, some boomers like her, but the boomers that are like Fox Newsed out, they're like, Marjorie's a traitor. You know, if you post Marjorie, this one boomer commented and he said, I think she's working for Soros now. Not only is she not working for Soros, but Trump hires Soros's protege to run our money supply, but somehow MAGA doesn't realize that. Dude, call out people who are paid by Soros. But if you accuse people who aren't paid by Soros of being paid by Soros, yet you ignore the fact that Trump hires people who literally worked for George Soros, then maybe you're just dumb. I want to show you guys. This is Scott Bessent, okay? He is the 79th United States Secretary of the Treasury. Scott Bessent is a prominent hedge fund manager and investor. He was widely described as the protege of George Soros, having played a key role in Soros fund management. He served as their chief investment officer from 2011 to 2015. He's also donated to Barack Obama. He donated to John McCain. And he donated to Hillary Clinton. At the time, he said he was a Democrat who supported liberal causes. Scott Bessent is the first open homosexual Secretary of the Treasury in United States history. He's breaking down LGBT barriers. And yeah, he's like a Soros guy who donated to Hillary Clinton. If you don't like me or Marjorie Taylor Greene, you don't have to. It's America. You can like and dislike who you want. But why doesn't MAGA, who claims to care so much about George Soros, why don't they realize that Trump hires George Soros people? Like, it's like, I don't like Bill Gates. Well, there he is at the dinner table with Donald Trump talking about what they're doing together. You know, and they'll be like, I don't like Bill Clinton. Well, there Trump is on camera defending Bill Clinton from the Epstein allegations. Well, I don't think Trump's guilty of anything with Epstein. I think Bill Clinton's guilty of stuff with Jeffrey Epstein. Then if Trump was trying to drain the swamp, why would he be on camera multiple times condemning Republicans for questioning Bill Clinton? And Trump says, I like Bill Clinton. He understands me. It's like, dude, the average Trump supporter at this point is retarded. It's like nothing they say makes sense to anybody except for someone as retarded as them. I'm not a fan of George Soros. I'm not a fan of Open Society Foundation. I know a lot more about George Soros and Open Society Foundation than most of the people questioning me do. You know, China doesn't want Open Society Foundation running amok. Russia doesn't want Open Society Foundation running amok. The left-wing Zionist Bolsheviks and the right-wing Zionists, they have the same ulterior agenda. Yes, there's going to be differences in the mix, but at the leadership, Nancy Pelosi and Schumer have a similar foreign policy as Donald Trump. You know, Schumer has said that the reason he's in the Democratic Party is to make sure that the Democratic Party stays pro-Israel. Trump is like the biggest Israeli puppet of all time. Oh, but he's really fighting over a hamburger. It's all fake and gay. And I want to show you guys this too. I made a whole video on it, but I'm not going to show it all. The United States in 2024, the State Department accused India, who's very pro-Israel, India of anti-Semitism for pushing conspiracies against George Soros. So as Trump and all of the Republicans and Kathy Hochul and Eric Adams and all of the left-wing and the right-wing Zionists passed these anti-Semitism hate speech rules all over America, they're using them against India, saying, hey, how dare you be an anti-Semite? Stop questioning George Soros. You understand what I'm saying? The word anti-Semitism and policing anti-Semitism Our own government is using the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism to police criticism of George Soros because George Soros is ethnically Jewish. If you want to find my favorite video of the last month, I'm about to play it for you because it perfectly encapsulates American politics. Ted Cruz, who is wildly ugly. He looks like somebody hit him in the face with a shovel. He's disgusting. He looks like the weird guy from the Addams Family. He's gross. And I say that because he's even uglier inside. And somebody that's as ugly as Ted Cruz is inside, the inside of his soul is disgusting and ugly. It's totally okay to point out that Ted Shovel-Face Cruz looks like he got hit in the face with a shovel because he's just disgusting. Ted Cruz constantly calls people anti-Semites, constantly polices speech for Israel. And here, a left-wing Jewish activist calls Ted Cruz an anti-Semite. It's perfect. It's my favorite video because it encapsulates the fake left-right Bolshevik Zionist America.
These protests, they were not organic. They were paid for. They were bought and paid for. You and I talked about before how George Soros, there's real evidence that George Soros is paying for it. I talked about on my podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz. I laid out the receipts, how Soros's foundation has given over $3 million to Indivisible, one of the key organizers of these protests. I think in many ways they're AstroTurf.
So Ted Cruz said that George Soros was funding these left-wing No Kings protests. And the leader of the left-wing group, who happened to be a Jewish female progressive, called Ted Cruz an anti-Semite for trying to link her to George Soros. It's too good. The anti-Semite accuser gets accused. Poor baby.
What do you say to that? Your group, AstroTurf, these are not organic protests.
Look, I think there's a long history of anti-Semitic tropes suggesting that shadowy Jewish billionaires are behind genuine movements in this country. Republicans have suggested that about our organization and about other organizations for years, and usually it backfires. And you know why? Because there are regular people all over the country who are picking up, organizing these protests, bringing out their communities.
It's too perfect. The left-wing Jewish protest organizers call Ted Cruz an anti-Semite for suggesting that a Jewish billionaire who funds stuff funded their protest, and Ted Cruz accuses left-wingers of anti-Semitism because they don't support Israel enough. So Ted Cruz is an anti-Semite. He's an anti-Semite. She's an anti-Semite. They're all anti-Semites. The left, the right, the people who are paid by Israel, the people who aren't paid by Israel. Let's take it to Dennis Prager because I'm not allowed to tell you this. I'm just not. I'm what they call a Gentile. So I only have so many rights in this country now because I am a mostly white European Christian Gentile, a goyim, some would say. So I can't say this. So I'm going to pass it to my buddy Dennis Prager to explain to you what's going on. But once again, I can't say it, so I'm going to let Dennis Prager say it. And then I'm going to condemn him for anti-Semitism. Okay, Dennis, tell him what's going on here.
Every ism except Nazism was founded and or led disproportionately by Jews. You name it. Marxism, humanism, socialism, environmentalism, feminism, Jews.
I condemn you, Dennis Prager, for your anti-Semitism, for accurately saying that Jewish leftists have funded almost every ism in American history. That is just the most wildly anti-Semitic thing I've ever heard. Even the NAACP, by the way, should look into that. But anyway, that's super anti-Semitic, Dennis Prager. You know, I can't believe you said that, but also, yeah, no, it is true. So they fund left-wing stuff, they fund right-wing stuff, and then both sides call each other anti-Semitic, and you are an anti-Semite if you notice. Speaking of noticing, I'm going to play probably my best journalistic report of the year. I got to give a shout out real quick for it because somebody did a deep diving thread on this, and I saw it, and that's what inspired this. And I knew Brad Parscale, Trump's former campaign manager, had to register as a foreign agent. I knew that, but I didn't kind of know the full in-depth of it. So I want to give a shout out real quick. Let me just scroll down a little bit. Damn, I tweet way too much. All right. Let me scroll down and find the guy who did the thread. I like to give credit whenever it's due. Dankster Intel, his name is. He did a really interesting thread on it, so I made a report based off that. But Brad Parscale got $9 million from Israel, basically, and he had to register as a foreign agent. And in his job description of like what he has to do as a foreign agent, he has to pump Israeli propaganda through Salem Media and its properties. So I did a full report on this. Check it out. I think it's my best report of the year, but it's just not being seen enough. And that's the sad part about the internet. Sometimes my favorite stuff, people don't see it. And I'm like, why? Why not this one? Why the other one? Why does the other one have like 700,000 views, but this one nobody cares about? I don't know, but here it is. Hopefully you enjoy. And yes, my best report of the year, I think. Can I prove that foreign agents are pumping foreign propaganda into United States media? Yes, and give me a minute of your time. Last year, former campaign manager for Donald Trump, Brad Parscale, registered as a foreign agent for Israel. According to his foreign agent registration, he was tailoring content to Gen Z audiences, and one of the bullet points was integration of narrative messaging into Salem Media Network properties and aligned distribution channels. Reports showed that it was a $6 million contract, $1.5 million per month, but then it was extended to $9 million. And in January of last year, Salem Media Group announced that Brad Parscale would be their chief strategy officer. So since his foreign registration said he had to integrate into Salem Media, I curiously just looked up what they own. It's a lot. Townhall.com, RedState.com, PJ Media, Hot Air, Twitchy, Bearing Arms. Apparently 95 stations across 35 markets, a massive amount of digital Christian properties, plenty of news hosts either work directly with Salem or let them do distribution for their show. And I saw that last year as well. After Brad Parscale got there, Salem Media Group announced a landmark deal with Don Trump Jr. and Lara Trump, where Salem would acquire 30% stake in Don Jr.'s app, while the Trumps obtained an undisclosed equity stake in Salem Media Group. And in their press release, they said that they aren't just business partners with Salem, they also now have a significant ownership stake in the company. So I don't know who at Salem is pushing Israeli propaganda, but clearly their CSO, according to his registration, pretty much has to do it. He's getting paid to do that. I wonder how many people accusing Tucker Carlson of being a foreign agent when he's countering mainstream media propaganda and clearly doesn't work for Israel. I wonder how many of the people accusing him are doing what they accuse. The Jerusalem Post reported inside Israel's Esther project, Justice Department filing exposes secret influencer PR campaign, so there's definitely a budget for that. And Trump himself said he took $250 million from an Israeli-American mega donor who, in tandem with her husband when he was alive, Trump said would aggressively ask him to do things for Israel. That's really all they ever ask for, and Trump does things for Israel for them, and Trump even said he thinks that she probably likes Israel more than America.
Miriam gave my campaign, indirectly, 250 million. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I can think of. Her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him. And what he did is he fought for Israel. That's all he really fought for. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel.
But nothing to see here, folks. Just politicians and political media selling out our country. No big deal. So, yeah, just to recap and then just tell you a little bit more stuff that I've researched. Trump's former campaign manager, Brad Parscale, took $6 million from Israel, had to register as a foreign agent or an Israeli company of some sort, and was pumping out propaganda for them for $1.5 million a month. And then he re-signed for $9 million. He has to do it through Salem Media and its properties. But here's the weird part about that. And something called the Esther Project, I put it up there, which you know how people were like, oh, you're getting paid $7,000 if you're pro-Israel. Like they were accusing everyone of getting paid $7,000. I'm not saying they were right about every accusation, but the reason that they were doing that was because the Esther Project was paying influencers $6 to $7K in order to post Israeli propaganda, but they never disclosed who those people were. In their filings, it said 14 to 18 influencers was their goal. And I did a lot of research before this video and just yesterday, and none of those 14 to 18 people registered with FARA. And, you know, they might never have to, or they might have to. It depends who runs the State Department in a couple of years, if they go back and try to look. But usually, even if you're the influencer that's working with the company that's a foreign agent, you would have to register as a foreign agent. If you're knowingly taking money to push Israeli propaganda, you have to, but they didn't register. And you know, it's like a loophole because they took it through a company that took it through a company. You know, it's questionable whether it should be allowed or not. So here's my question, because I think, you know, if you're knowingly pushing propaganda for a foreign country and taking money to do so, you should tell people. But who are the 14 to 18 influencers that took the money or potentially took the money? Who, like Salem Media at this point, this is my question to the entire thing, because Salem Media owns, as I put in there, a bunch of Christian things that people listen to, Town Hall, Red State. They have hundreds probably of radio shows that they distribute. And the chief financial officer is Trump's former campaign manager, Brad Parscale. How does that work? How does an American media company hire a chief strategy officer who's a foreign agent? So, you know, shouldn't they, if they were a company, shouldn't they disclose which shows are working for foreign agents and which ones aren't? Like, I can't even imagine ever doing this, but if you're going to actually do this and put a foreign agent at such a high level of your company, but no disclosure on which shows it is or isn't going through, then I just can't trust the entire network completely until I find out more information. I also did some research because I was like, why would anyone want to be a foreign agent? Like Pam Bondi was actually a foreign agent for Qatar at one point. And I'm like, why would you want to be a foreign agent? And it just pays really well. I did some research on Brad Parscale and how many people he had to reach for that money. Like he had to, you know, push it through Salem, do this, do that. Like there was a set of objectives that he registered with FARA, and he was getting about $1.5 million a month. I reach more, like he said, you know, I'll reach, or I think in that filing, he had to reach 20 million people or something, right? I've reached 20 million people in the last week through all my social media. So if I wanted to just be a foreign agent and all of my content be for a foreign propaganda, I mean, I'm not even exaggerating. Let me try to do the math here. 176 divided by 2 was 8. I think I could make like $20 million a month. You know, like it sounds outrageous. I mean, obviously they wouldn't pay me that, but if instead of doing what I do, working for America, not working for anybody, doing what I believe, not selling out to any lobby, like I'm getting like next to nothing compared to what I could do. I reach, just on my Facebook page, I reach 176 million people in the last like 28 days. That's not combining with my Twitter and my Instagram. I can't even do the math. I'm reaching like 200 million plus people a month, and he needs to reach 20 million people in order to get 1.5 million, roughly. So 20 divided by 10 times 1.5. Yeah, it's an absurd amount of money, maybe like 15 million or something. It's like, this is why people do it. It's just easy money. Why would Pam Bondi, who's already wealthy, who's already been an attorney general, who's already probably made millions of dollars and worked in the government, why would she want to be a foreign agent to Qatar? Like, you know, why is everyone so comfortable doing this stuff? I don't know. I mean, like, I guess at least they register, you know, like at least Pam Bondi registered as a foreign agent. At least Brad Parscale registered as a foreign agent. I give them credit for that, because I think there's a lot of, you know, unregistered foreign agents that are kind of sneaky. But I understand, like, you can't just, every American citizen is allowed to have an opinion. If you like Qatar, or you like Israel, or you like Russia, or you like Iran, or you like Afghanistan, or you like, you know, Cuba, as an American citizen, your First Amendment allows you to have controversial opinions. So I understand it's a slippery slope to just accuse everyone of a foreign agent who has a different opinion. But somebody who's literally taking millions of dollars knowingly, like, here's $100,000, here's $1.5 million, do work for our country. Okay, I register. It's just a crazy career path to go down. Like, it to me, it seems like I can't ever respect you again. Even Qatar. Like, I don't hate any country, but I don't hate Qatar. Qatar's an ally, so they say, you know, I've never even been there. Why would Pam Bondi want to be a foreign agent of there? I would never want to be a foreign agent of any country. I would never want to take money to do what another country wanted. That seems like it would ruin my whole integrity. Like my entire character and my entire like reputation would be destroyed by being a foreign agent. But politicians just seem to have no problem doing it, and it's probably just for money and connections and stuff. But yeah, that's the story on that. Like check into that stuff. But Salem Media should disclose where they're running this $6 to $9 million through, how much of it's going through their networks, and which networks it's going through. I don't know. I don't listen to many of their news hosts and stuff, but it's all very, very strange. I have a bunch of other things. I know I said I'd cover the Erica and the Moon stuff. Let me click this one real quick. I think we'll go with the Erica Kirk one next. So Trump vaguely seems to imply that he thinks Erika Kirk should sue Drewski, and Drewski did a skit, making fun of Erika essentially, which went crazy, crazy viral. And Erika, obviously, I'm sure did not like it whatsoever. So here's that clip of Trump telling Erika she should sue.
A thing called Happy Easter. Do we have that? Everyone happy? Anybody that doesn't want, hello, darling. Wow, this is a good table. I like that table. You're doing well, right? Okay. I think you should sue him, but, I told her, you ought to sue somebody. They're so jealous of Erika. I said, you ought to sue their... I can say it, you're not allowed to say this. You have to be nicer. Sue their ass off.
So Donald Trump wants her to sue. Trump loves lawsuits, I guess. I don't think Erika could or should sue. I'm sure she could try, but a comedy skit making fun of somebody, that happens all the time. And I just don't see how it could even be possible to win a lawsuit of somebody making fun of you or doing what is an exaggerated routine, essentially just overplaying it for humor purposes. I completely disagree with Trump. You could definitely say he's a dick, he's a scumbag, he should be nicer to a widow, but a lawsuit for comedy is a dangerous, slippery slope for a man in Donald Trump who clearly cares about himself and his agenda more than the First Amendment. And that could be seen in many ways, but including his anti-Semitism executive orders. Like, the man only believes in the First Amendment, I think, if it benefits him. But when it doesn't, it's lawsuit time. I want to play this clip real quick of Erika Kirk because this is when Charlie was alive. And I'm going to try to do this in the most respectful way as possible because I do think you should be nice to widows, and that I'm sure she's going through a lot, and I'm sure she's grieving, and I'm sure that, some people have unrealistic expectations for her. Sometimes she's smiling and people are like, look, she's smiling again. Sometimes she smiles at insane times where I'm like, that's insane. She freaks me out. Other times they're like, look, she's smiling. And it's like, yeah, she's going to smile in her life. That's okay. But I'm going to be as nice as I can while saying what I really actually think about her in general. This is a clip of when Charlie was alive. She did some like young woman summit. They do some woman's turning point thing. And her outfit, I remember seeing this. Her outfit is the most ridiculous outfit I've ever seen anyone wear, especially a female at a political event. And she looks like a dressed up doll and has a Labubu in front of her. I'll just play it real quick and you can see for yourself.
That is not. Don't delay the eternal for temporary, and do not sacrifice the sacred for the secular. It is not worth it.
So I'll just put it on the screen again. Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, but it's just like, imagine Tulsi Gabbard wearing that, imagine Meghan McCain wearing that, imagine, Nancy Mace wearing that, imagine Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene wearing that. Any female who would wear that outfit, everybody would be like talking about it because it's the most ridiculous pick me, like I'm trying to be Lady Gaga outfit that I've ever seen at a political event. And, people kind of dress that way when they're going to the Met Gala or when they're trying to win a Grammy, but you don't generally see political women dressing that way. Like, it's just kind of like a goofy way to dress. And especially like the glitter pants after her husband dies, she just dresses like, I would say, tacky and just like attention seeking, which is fine. Like you can do that. Like brick suit, wears a brick suit at every event. Like, look at me, I'm wearing a brick suit. But then you're like, hey, that guy's wearing a brick suit. He's like, whoa, stop looking at me. It's like, bro, you wear a brick suit for attention. We know that. She's doing this stuff for attention. She's definitely trying to be like a Lady Gaga. So no one's supposed to notice that or ever make a joke about it. Like, who would wear an all gold glittery suit like a couple months? Like, it's just it's cringe. Even if Charlie were alive, like her outfits are cringe anyway, but especially after, it's like extra cringe. So you want to sue Drewski for making a joke about what everyone would have probably joked about anyway, even if Charlie stayed alive? Because if she just kept dressing like that, I think people eventually would have noticed and been like, dang, Charlie's wife is like the most outrageous like dresser in all of conservative politics. It's okay, you can do that. I'm not saying I have the greatest fashion ever, but if I wore like a sparkly gold suit to an event, I'm fine with someone making a skit about it. It's like, yeah, I'm purposely outlandishly dressing, I guess, for attention, or like that's just my style. But then you can't expect nobody to look at it. So it's like, it's crazy for Trump to say he wants to sue over that. And I think the balance, that I could say, I mean, everything is not supposed to necessarily be a balance, but I do think some people are going too far. But at the same time, I completely understand people's skepticism of Erica. The more you find out about her, the more you listen to her talk, the more you watch how she dresses, the more people are not like the biggest fan. I think she's an interesting character, but I don't trust her. I find her social cues to be bizarre. When her and Glenn Beck were talking about when Charlie died, she was like smiling and laughing at the point where Glenn looked devastated, like, yo, he died at this point. Like she laughs and smiles at very strange times. She dresses insane. And there's definitely, although obviously that's a tragedy, there's extreme comedy in Erica for sure. It's my opinion. I am interested to see where she goes with her career, and now that she's running Turning Point, but the spotlight will be on her as long as she's the CEO and going to Trump events and dressing like a sparkly gold, glittery disco ball, or dressing up in a pink fluffy outfit that would be pretty much the laughing stock of, like, imagine, I'm sorry, but just like imagine Tulsi Gabbard or I don't know, Marjorie Taylor Greene wearing this. Or literally anyone ever. If Hillary wore this, everyone would be like, what is that? Like, it looks like a dress up doll meets Lady Gaga meets Kanye West meets like Liza Minnelli. And she's speaking at a Christian event in front of like young girls, and they're all dressed extremely modestly and normal. And she's up there dressed like, I don't know, like she's going to like, going to be on the top of a cupcake or something. It is what it is. I don't know. Now I have to say that that's like a totally normal way to dress at a Christian conservative event. I would have said it at any point. Like, it's just what I think. So I don't know. I'm not for the lawsuit, and we'll see where she goes with her career and stuff. God bless her, though. With that being said, let's get to the Artemis. This is like the big thing, and a lot of people are confused why they didn't know about it, because a moon launch is a huge thing. We're like launching further than we've ever gone in space, going closer to the moon than we've been in so long, and pretty much no one knew about it before a couple of days ago. And now that it happened, you have a lot of controversy. A lot of people don't trust NASA. Some people think the Earth is flat. Some people think it's a globe. Some people don't think we went to the moon. Matt Walsh really believes we landed on the moon, and Matt Walsh and people like him get really upset when people question anything he says. You're playing into the left's hands. NASA's great. It's DEI. How dare you not trust our government? They'd never lie to us. This is like when white men were awesome. This is when we were building, and now it's all the women. It's like, relax, Matt. I get it. Matt Walsh loves NASA, but here's a video clip of Artemis from a plane that somebody posted. And I noticed something because I watched multiple different angles of people doing it on plane. at first it went up like rockets and planes and everything do. And then it started going sideways. So let's watch it.
That is epic. Oh my gosh. And they are out of their minds right now. It's scary. Think about all of the world is like.
I mean, it's very cool. Rockets are real. They go up, they go down, Elon invented some that land so they don't blow up or land in the water, so you could save them and reuse them. That's a great invention. However, NASA is launching this one, and before I talk about what I think about it, because it may or may not be popular with some, here is the official picture from the moon in 1971. I'm going to read your comments first. Let me know in the comments, do you think this is a real picture from the moon? Because this is 1971, some sort of rover or vehicle on the moon. There it is. That's, in mainstream archives. I don't know the exact name of this lunar rover, but that is what they say is a real picture with the shadow. The sky's black. There's this weird, like, upside umbrella looking thing. That thing looks like it wouldn't even last 5 seconds on land, but on the moon, I'm sure it's just equipped to do whatever it wants to do. Let's see. Do you guys think that thing is a real picture of a real thing on the moon? Peaky Blinders says absolutely fake. Susan says no. Pop Wee says LMAO. Someone said the lawn chairs look great. Technology's amazing. Someone said a Stanley Kubrick production. Someone said we needed that old technology where Nixon could communicate to the moon without interruption or lag. Yeah, it's all very interesting. I got to upload my boy's clip. I know I should have had this uploaded already, but I can't do without it, and I'm just going to have to get it now. This is NASA's, I don't know about now what's going on with NASA, but at the time it was NASA's oldest astronaut. So this isn't just like a random guy. This is an official NASA astronaut with a lot of clout and a lot of respect. This was his explanation, and this has gone viral so many times because it's like the funniest video. Don Pettit explaining why we don't go back to the moon. It's actually because we destroyed the technology.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
So in order to believe that NASA's not lying to us, you'd have to believe that we went to the moon and landed men on the moon in 1969 with technology and computers that are more unsophisticated than your smartphone is today. Your smartphone is apparently more powerful than the computer that sent the first moon landing at the moon, or the men walking on the moon. Okay. Richard Nixon made a phone call to them. They took all some cute pictures and stuff of them doing all this stuff, videos, whatever. And then, like Don Pettit said, they just can't go back to the moon anymore because they had the technology back then when their computers were shittier than your smartphone. And now we have supercomputers and AI and drones that can like fly themselves, probably fly to the moon, land and back without any, like human interaction. You could probably build it, drone it there, land, drone back off of like a Apple 15. But they destroyed the technology, and it's just too painful for them to build back again. So what's the point of doing what we did in 1969? Makes absolutely no sense. But that's what they told us. So I don't know if it's because they didn't have the technology to land men on the moon, but instead of landing men on the moon, they just flew a rocket near the moon. And I think they said they were going deeper. They were going deeper than they've ever gone before or something. Listen, rockets are beautiful. I love America. And I would say that I believe rockets are real. Like rockets go up. Sometimes they land back down. That's totally true. Whether they're leaving the atmosphere or not, there's a debate to be had there, because even recent reports from space.com like 10 years ago said that the atmosphere of Earth actually extends past the moon, right? This is not pseudoscience. This is mainstream science that space experts and space agencies in other countries, I think, or was it Europe or America confirmed it? I don't know, you'd have to look it up, but official space experts said that they think that the atmosphere actually might extend past the moon. It's further than they thought it was. So that's a fascinating thing. But for comedy reasons, let's listen to the ultimate red heifer boomer boss, Glenn Beck. He does like he's the funniest person to me because I think he seems like so stupid, like a child, that he actually believes everything. So like when I listen to him talk to like AI George Washington or beg Netanyahu for an Israeli passport, even though he's a chubby Mormon, I laugh at like Glenn Beck. He's never joking and he's not comedically funny. Like he doesn't have a good personality or anything, but I laugh every time I hear him talk because he's the most humiliating person I've like ever seen in the last 5 years. Here is him crying tears of joy over this rocket launch, which he just loves. He loves this. Let's watch Glenn Beck. This is fun.
4, 3. Go for your left. Great call out. The rocket is on its own.
Really bright.
God's great. All these people are the ones who built it. And they're so loud. All the things that could go wrong. See him in 10 days.
This is so great. I love America and Israel. The super chat says, I would go back to the moon in a nanosecond, but we can't build that technology because Israel needs more money. And I just love NASA, and I love the moon landing, and I love Winston Churchill, and I love my AI George Washington, and I love Trump, and I love donor money, and I just love the moon landing. It's so good. It's like, all right, relax, dude. Israel's looking for a red heifer because that's like part of their ritual that they need to do. They need to like sacrifice a red heifer. And I'm not 100% sure that is Glenn Beck, but if you look at this unreleased picture from NASA archives that came out recently, it does look like him, and that it does look like that perfect red heifer fur that they're looking for. So, if I were Glenn Beck, and I were Israel, I would just give him a passport because you could use a red heifer, and just make sure your tears don't mess up the perfect red, fur. Because if it's not perfect, they can't sacrifice it to bring back the Mashiach. So, got to be careful with those tears. So, Glenn Beck really, really enjoyed it. I would love to show like Glenn Beck this picture and just like see what he said about it. I'm like, Glenn, what do you think about this? He's like, it's so good. It's so real. When I saw that upside down umbrella on the moon and the shadow, oh my gosh, I love it. It reminds me of the time I went to Israel. It's my favorite. I love the moon landing story. It's my pastime. It's my binky. It's my blankie. I love the moon landing. All right, Glenn. Relax, bro. You'll be okay. We'll get you an Israeli passport, okay? Maybe you'll even be exiled there at some point. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so Glenn enjoyed it, but what do I think, right? Who cares what he thinks?
Guys, stop it. Oh my gosh. And they are out of their...
Personally, I am not convinced that we can leave the, whether you would call it firmament or upper echelons of the atmosphere or Van Allen belt or whatever you want to believe is up there. I'm not fully convinced that we can really go as far as they're saying we're going. So in my unprofessional, completely unscientific opinion, I think the rocket is going up and it's going to go that way and then it's going to go down. And that's what it's going to do. And I don't think they wanted to go through the hassle of like having to land men on the moon and pretend to take videos of that. So I think it was just easier for them to make a rocket go like this and show a few pictures with a fisheye lens. So people were like, wow, look, it looks so round. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a dome. It's obviously going to be round. That's why they go like this. They're going inside and then they're just going to land. Am I sure about it? No, I don't really care that much, but it's like, I don't really buy any of their narratives. If you look up, and this is not my opinion. This is like NASA, official documents and stuff. I'm not the most well researched on this topic because it's not my expertise, but if you look at where the Hubble telescope is, it's within Earth's atmosphere. If you look at where the International Space Station is, it's within Earth's atmosphere. They're both within a couple, I don't know. Let me look up how high the Hubble is. How high is Hubble above Earth? The Hubble telescope is, what are kilometers, dude? I don't do kilometers. I'm not European, okay? We didn't take America to do kilometers, miles up. Don't do that to me. It's 300 to 340 miles in the air, which is within Earth's atmosphere. International Space Station is 250 miles in the Earth's atmosphere. How high up does Earth's atmosphere go? Earth's atmosphere goes up about 6,200 miles. So I'm just saying, this is just a fact. The Hubble telescope and the International Space Station are well within Earth's atmosphere. That's just a fact. Someone said some intern accidentally streamed his Kerbal Space Program gameplay last night. Can't get through rad belts. Yeah, everyone's allowed to enjoy it. Glenn Beck can cry over it. Science geeks can say I'm retarded. I don't really care. Everyone has their First Amendment opinion. But my opinion is I don't think they've ever landed on the moon. I don't think men have ever walked on the moon. Whatever this is, I don't believe this is a real picture. It's a real picture, but it could have been filmed anywhere. It's like 1969. People didn't even have cell phones. This does not look like something that could like roll on the moon to me, but maybe I'm wrong. And I think the reason that they don't send men on the moon now is because people have better technology. They have smartphones. It's easier. It's easier to spot stuff than it was back then. Back then, you put it on the television and boomers think it's like a Rolling Stones, Fleetwood Mac concert. It's like, oh my gosh, we just landed on the moon. And I like the Rolling Stones and Fleetwood Mac. I would much prefer to watch a concert of either of those bands actually than the moon landing, because at least it's real. So, at that time, I don't think people had the technology or the, communication tech to like question that much. And now that we do have all of those things, that I think it would be a lot harder to pretend that they're doing it. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they had the technology. Maybe they lost it. Maybe they destroyed it. Maybe they can't get it back again. Maybe our cell phone's better than the computer that they called Nixon from, or the telephone that they called Nixon from. They just can't seem to do it or whatever. I personally believe that people are not falling for the Iran war propaganda. The George W. Bush playbook that Donald Trump is running is not working. So they need patriotism, and I think one of the most patriotic things they ever did to rally people around America was the moon landing. The moon landing made everyone feel like, our country did something special. It's like the Olympics in space. Like we beat Russia. Yeah, we beat Russia, It was like a great moment for Americans. So I personally think that, they were like, all right, let's do that again. But let's do it on April Fools. Let's try to unite the troops to get Trump's approval ratings up, or at least get people to be patriotic again, so then we could blow up people in the Middle East and blow up schools and tell them we're doing it to fight terrorists, even though an Al-Qaeda leader now runs Syria essentially and gets invited to the White House. So I'm not buying it. I think it's another just way for them to manufacture consent for these wars and get patriotism up. I don't talk about it that much because I'm not like claiming to be an expert, nor do I care to argue with anybody, but I don't think we've ever been to the moon. I don't think we can go to the moon. I don't think they're going to the moon right now. And I don't believe that anything that they do in space is really as far as people think it is, in the sense of like, oh, it's outside the Earth's atmosphere. If you ask the average person, maybe I'll do this sometime. If you ask the average person on the street, like, is the International Space Station outside of Earth's atmosphere? Probably 90% of people on the street would say yes. It's literally not. It's not. Nobody's pretending that it is. NASA doesn't say that it is. It's not even close to outside of Earth's atmosphere. It's so far in Earth's atmosphere, it's not even funny. Same with the Hubble telescope. The Earth's atmosphere goes up, apparently, according to this, around 6,200 miles, and they're both within 500 miles. So they're so far in Earth's atmosphere, it's like they're not even like 10% out of the Earth, That's what we do. We do stuff like that. We go up, we go down, they fly, they land, they float things in the air, they fly them in the air, and it's really cool. I think the air is really cool. People don't necessarily know what space means. Like, the average person thinks space is outside of the Earth's atmosphere. What they call space is not outside of Earth's atmosphere. A lot of space is outside of Earth's atmosphere, but they consider some of in Earth's atmosphere as space as well. Where if I were to make a definition, I would consider space outside of Earth's atmosphere. But, they're not even quite sure how far Earth's atmosphere goes. So I guess every 5 years, we're going to have like a little Katy Perry flies up in the air. Artemis does this, and Matt Walsh and Glenn Beck are going to spiral on their computers to be like, this is the greatest thing America's done. I'm so proud to be an American. Cool, bro. That's awesome. I'm probably more proud when I watch Steph Curry hit a 3-pointer, or, the Asian chick do a triple axel or a double axel. I'm a little more proud of that. Wow, I'm proud to be an American. But this space stuff, it doesn't quite do it for me, but everyone's allowed to disagree. Everyone's allowed to enjoy and, have fun with it. I'm just not the target audience for it, I guess. All right. Well, that was today's show. I'll read some questions. I think I went through everything. That was the Trump speech. Thought it was very unimpressive. He just said the same thing he tweets on True Social every 5 seconds. Like, he just talked in a loop and said he wants to blow up a country into the Stone Age. Found it insane and not helpful in any way or impressive. He has no depth to what he's saying. Erika Kirk, should she sue Drewski? Almost definitely not. It's a comedy skit. I get that you don't want people making fun of you. I don't think anybody does. Maybe some people do, but a lawsuit for a comedy skit when you're one of the most famous people in the country, probably not the play. I'll say this too, especially, like, I'm not saying that someone should or shouldn't be in the spotlight, because that's not like the case. But if you're trying to live a life where you're like a public CEO taking over for your husband, who was like, front and center everywhere purposely because he was, basically risking his life, like putting himself at the top of debates. You're not like, oh, I just want to be a widow and grieve and hang out with my kids. She's constantly at the White House. She's constantly doing speeches. She's constantly wearing glittery pants. I don't know. It's not to say someone should make fun of her, but it's like, Aaron Rodgers has a wife that doesn't want to be in the spotlight. I think you should probably leave her alone. You know what I'm saying? She's just the spouse of a NFL player and she doesn't want to be famous. Erica, I don't know if that's like what she's doing necessarily. And then the moon landing stuff, I just explained. Thanks for the recap, Anam. You're welcome. We can agree to disagree on that. The moon landing stuff, I don't really care that much, so I don't care if people disagree, because it's not like my most important talking point or topic. I just don't care. Someone said, be safe, Anam. Go start a family, bro. Well, it's not that easy. I mean, it could be that easy, but there's different ways to play it. I think eventually you got to find the person you love, but I'm not settling for a lot of the people some people are settling for. So I'm taking my time rather than ending up with some woman who doesn't even like me. That's not the play. He got rid of Bondi. Is it official? I haven't been on like Twitter since I've been live. Let's see. Just in, the biggest bridge in Iran comes tumbling down. Dude, Trump is a psychopath. I mean, it's like, is that good for him? He's like, it's time for Iran to make a deal before it's too late while they're killing the negotiators. Dude, Trump like makes me sick. Like, I don't know. Him and Israel, the way they act, they'll just like kill a negotiator, blow up a bridge. Like, they're, in my view, they talk and act like literal terrorists. So I don't know. Like, blowing a bridge up is what you're doing now. That's crazy. Imagine if they did that in our country. I mean, obviously it would be insane and I would be completely against it. But like, would you be like, no, it's fine because America's providing weapons to Israel and blowing stuff up there? No, of course not. And no one wants to lose a war. I'm not saying, but that wouldn't they consider that terrorism? But they've been doing that over there and in other places for a long time. Like, they're just beating the crap out of these people and then providing no off ramp. And then when someone's on an off ramp, they blow up the off ramp. And then they're like, where did you go? Oh, wait, we blew up all the negotiators. I guess we can't negotiate. Let's blow up a bridge. They're like insane. It's so bad. And I'm not, people got mad at me for saying this on Twitter. I'm not saying this because it's necessarily true. I'm saying this because people are having this thought process. I've heard multiple people. Trump is so bad that people are wondering if Kamala would have been better. I'm not saying Kamala would have been better. I'm not saying millions of people are saying Kamala would have been better. I mean, some are, but I'm saying people that are more right-wing than Trump, more conservative than Trump, more attached to Christian ideology than Trump, more pro-America than Trump, they're sitting wondering, is Trump worse than Biden and Kamala? No one, I mean, there are people saying that, but that's how bad Trump is, that people have to even have that thought to be like, how bad is this guy? How evil is this guy? How sick in the head is this guy? How corrupt and sold out is this guy? It's like, yeah, Kamala and Biden would have opened the border, which is devastating, but Trump, like, these are our options: open border Mayorkas or Trump blowing up negotiators, world leaders, bridges, schools. Like, this isn't a real democracy here. And this is my issue with everybody running around everywhere else. We can't vote our way out of this because they control most of the candidates. So the only way we could vote our way out of this is if we start paying attention and rallying behind people who are less sold out, like Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and criticizing people like Trump and Lindsey Graham and Kamala and, whatever his name is, Chuck Schumer. But that's where I disagree with MAGA. MAGA thinks, let's just sit back and wait and trust, where I'm like, that's the opposite of what's going to fix all this stuff. We need to let these people know that we know that they're completely sold out, and we have no, like, how do you vote your way out of a war that Kamala and Biden were funding? Kamala and Biden didn't fund Israel. Trump funds Israel. Kamala and Biden oversaw the funding of Ukraine. Trump funds Ukraine. Republicans fund Ukraine. There is no get out of this war on the ballot. Trump was the get out of the war on the ballot. He was I'm going to get out of the Ukraine war and I'm not going to do an Iran war. Millions of us, maybe not you, but I voted because I knew Trump would close the border. But besides that, my hope was that he would pull us out of the war with Ukraine. It didn't happen. My hope, I didn't think he would, but I thought maybe, and I was clearly wrong, but I was like, maybe he'll do the war in Iran. I knew he would close the border. Everything else I was iffy about. Anything I was iffy on, Trump hasn't done. He's literally done everything wrong that I hoped he would do. And everything I thought he would do, he did, which is close the border. But if we can't vote our way out of these wars, then it's fake. They don't care how gay stuff is or how gay it isn't. Like, you're like, but the school, tampon Tim's putting tampons in the bathroom. Yes, that's weird. That's very weird. In men's bathrooms, why would you put tampons in there? But if it's the same foreign policy with tampons in the bathroom and the same foreign policy with tampons out of the bathroom, do you not understand that that's the world they're creating? They're creating a world where we're fighting over these issues in America, but they're doing 97% of the same stuff regardless of who wins. And then you're just focusing on the tampons. It's like, I don't want tampons in the bathroom, but I also want to not fund Ukraine. I also want to not fund Israel. I don't want to become Israel. I have to either have either we destroy the country with open borders with Biden and Kamala, or we destroy the country by letting the Israel lobby run train on America with Trump. That's our democracy. It's the Democrats are Zionists and Bolsheviks, and the right wing are basically Zionists and Bolsheviks too. They're just sneakier Bolsheviks, but an overtly Zionist. There is no voting our way out of it until people figure this out, and then Trump and these people will have to pivot. But in my view, in the view of people who don't like what I'm saying, they think I'm an issue because I'm not sold out to the Israel lobby, because I'm not a puppet who works for Murdoch Media, because I'm not a foreign agent, because I'm not a coward, because I prioritize my country and my constitution over party loyalty or Trump loyalty. So that's why people don't like me. And then they perceive it in some weird way. I think that they're the issue because they're just ignoring reality in order to be part of the sea of people who just can't hold their own party accountable. So it's like the elites don't care when the elections go back and forth because they control both sides. So you can't just criticize Biden when Biden sucks. You have to criticize Trump. You know, you have people that will say to me, because I say I'm ashamed of my country right now, or at least my leadership, and they'll say, oh yeah, well, why don't you leave the country then? Okay, were you ashamed of Joe Biden? Yes. Did you leave the country because you didn't like Joe Biden? No. Okay, why not? Because it doesn't make you anti-American to not like Joe Biden or the president. That's very American of you. Well, did you agree with the Ukraine war? No. Did you want to fund that war and be a part of that war? No. So did you fly to Russia? Did you have to go to Russia because you didn't want to fund Ukraine? No. So on what planet is that my fault? Because I believe what I said last year. And all of these influencers, Cat Turd, Guntard Eagleman, Eric Daughtry, the biggest con artist and grifter. I think the top grifter is Eric Daughtry. I mean, look at that guy's Twitter account. That guy, it's like if that guy's throat could go further down Trump's shaft, I don't know. He might end up on Artemis or something on a different planet. But it's like these people all had tweets 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago that were like, I don't want war with Iran. I want to restrain the neocons. Kamala would have got us into the war. We don't want ground troops. We don't want this. We don't want that. And then everything that they said 7 months ago is exactly what I said 7 months ago. And I'm saying today, I believe exactly what I believed 7 months ago about this stuff that I believe today. They've all changed because their entire worldview is just like deep throating Donald Trump. I've been reporting about the Middle Eastern wars since I started. Even in 2017 and 2018, I was talking about Syria. All of my Syria reporting was accurate. They got their regime change in Syria. And even I couldn't have predicted that a former wanted Al-Qaeda member, a leader of Al-Qaeda, was going to become the leader of Syria. I mean, I had my suspicions that America was working with Al-Qaeda, and I reported it in 2018 and 2017, or alongside Al-Qaeda. And then it happened. I'm like, oh, wow, I actually was right. It actually was true. Like, you know, damn, I wish it wasn't, because that would be better for our country. But it's the solution is people booing Trump, booing Ted Cruz. These people need to be so unpopular that they can't speak at events. Like, and I'm not calling for anything other than boos. Boo these people. Like the same way you boo Lindsey Graham, boo Donald Trump, boo Ted Cruz, boo Mike Johnson. These people are destroying America, but then they're like, oh, but look at the tampons. And boomers are like, yay. Like these people should be, especially now. And one thing that I've noticed, to be honest, is they're not going out as much. Trump and all these Mike Johnson, when they were popular because of Trump, they'd go to UFC events with Tulsi Gabbard, who's popular, and RFK, who's popular, and Trump, who's popular. And now they're not going anywhere. We'll see the White House event, but there's going to be no crowd there. I want Mike Johnson to go to a UFC event now. I want Trump to go to a UFC event now. Is he still going to get cheered? He might at the UFC, but he might not. Like, I really want to know what the public's thinking, because once their illusion is like shattered with their support groups, you got to see the game they're playing. Like Ted Cruz is like, look at the left. I get it. The left is so bad. Yes. But why does that make it okay that you're like an Israel lobby plant puppet? It doesn't. Trump is on autopilot now. He doesn't care. He's getting sloppier, and lazier, but yeah, he's definitely on autopilot. Yeah, like let's see what else is happening since let's see. The U.S. official, this is Barack Ravid. He said, a U.S. official tells me the bridge was attacked because it was used by the Iranian armed forces to try and secretly move missiles and missile parts from Tehran to launch sites into Western Iran and give it logistical support for the Iranian military. Glenn Greenwald said the White House press corps gave one of its little journalism prizes to this Israeli operative who runs around writing down what the U.S. and Israeli governments tell him to say and then mindlessly publishes it because that's what the White House press corps thinks journalism is. Dude, Glenn Greenwald is savage. But yeah, I gotta take my time. Someone said not all boomers are heartless, willfully ignorant conformists. Yes, I know, but it's just like same with like Trump supporters aren't all that way, but if you're a Trump supporter who's not ignorant, you know how many are. So, you know, it's like why see yourself in that? Rise above. I'm mad at Tucker Carlson. I put Trump on the screen. He's got his little like True Social. He's like, whoa, no, they said something mean to me. I have to fire everybody. Oh no. Okay. All right. We'll read a few and then let's try to keep this under 2 hours. How about that? Do I think they'll accomplish the 2030 agenda? Maybe. I think there's like a few agendas going on where like Europe had, with Agenda 2030, I think part of it was like Europe was trying to do all of this like climate stuff. And I think all of that's gone. Like all the libtarded stuff they were doing, like that's cooked. And now I think Trump is moving more towards like a Zionist world order. It was always sort of in that direction, but now I think he's willing to cut off like the liberal gay world order for the liberal Zionist world order. And I think he's trying to destroy NATO now. And I don't really like NATO, but everything Trump does, you have to understand why he's doing it. Like he's not getting rid of NATO because he's mad at Europe for being gay and liberal and flooding themselves with migrants. He's going to do it on behalf of Israel so they could probably attack Turkey next, you know, because I think with NATO, it probably wouldn't work that way. So Trump is going to use people's upsetness or disgust with the UN and the EU and NATO and all those stuff to be like, look at that. But it's not about how many migrants are flooding London. It's not about how gay they are. It's not about how liberal they are, the climate stuff. They've done that forever and just like, you know, just done nothing. So now it's going to be like, all right, I'm going to use people's upsetness with them in order to get out of this alliance with Europe, in order to attack certain people in the alliance because they won't suck off Israel enough, you know. They know who doesn't suck off Israel, and whether they'll tell you or not, that's who they're going to go for next. It's like every leader that doesn't suck off Israel, you know, they've gone after. Then you got Russia. They're mad at Russia. They're mad at China. You know, Turkey's a problem, even though Turkey's like an ally, but they play both sides. It's just never ending, but we'll see. Someone said, Tulsi, I can understand because it seems she has somewhat of a soul and at least outwardly to be more aligned with us than them. I like Tulsi, but I don't trust Tulsi, and I don't know what she's dealing with or what her, you know, justification is for what she does, but I don't, we'll see. Time will tell. Someone said, you suck at clipping your best stuff out. You need to hire. Yeah, I was thinking about that, but here's the thing with my business. Like I'm doing fine business wise. I have like a business model that works and I reach like so many people on Facebook. So if the more I clip, the more attention I'm going to get. I don't really, I know this sounds like hipster and I know people won't believe me, but it's the truth. I don't really want like, I don't need clips going viral every day. I'm reaching like 10 million people a day on Facebook, or 5 to 10 million people. I'm reaching like every time I tweet, I'm just like messing around and it gets like 1 million views. Like I'm getting like over 1 million views a day on Twitter. Do I really need more clips of myself going viral? Like I don't, you know, if I wanted to scale so badly, then I probably would, but I might do clips for YouTube or something just because I like my YouTube channel, but I kind of don't want my clips going viral all the time. Like I don't, or like, oh, I got to chop those up. If people want to watch the live stream, if they want to, if they want to witness greatness, if they want to see how great the show is, then they could come. If those numbers are small right now, then it is what it is. I will say though, I do want people to watch my tier list because I think it's the funniest video I've done, and I think it's a good format, but it doesn't have that many views. So if you watch anything, watch my tier list. I'm gonna play the first minute of it so you get the gist, and if you like it, go watch it. It's on YouTube. It's a 40-50 minutes, but it's a great listen. I go through the entire Trump administration, and I'm gonna keep doing it, and then everyone's probably gonna copy me and get more views, which is fine, but just watch it. What's up, folks? We're going to try something new and fun today, which is a tier list. If you look at this right here, S tiers, top tier, super tier, special tier, that means it's like the greatest, and then A, B, C, D, F, F obviously being the worst. And I'm going to rank Trump's cabinet, the people that I chose that I thought would be funny or interesting to rank, and we're going to rank them between S to F. So let's get started. And before we get started, I want to start with a few of Biden's cabinet because I know there's going to be some snowflakes here who are like, oh, Anamla, you're just hating on Trump because you're a liberal, even though I'm not. But I'm going to start with Mayorkas. I'm going to have to put him in the F tier. I almost said F, S, but F tier. Mayorkas is horrific. He looks like Lord Voldemort. He left the border open, and he's just an embarrassment. So that would be an F. Joe Biden would obviously be an F, and the gay guy who stole the luggage and got kicked out of government, obviously an F. So I'm just setting a baseline here just to let you know I call it both ways, but let's get into Trump's administration, and it should be fun. All right. All right, so that's the tier list. I went through Trump's administration. It's pretty fun. I guess Pam Bondi's out. Hold on. I'm going to post it on my Facebook. Pam Bondi is out. Thoughts? Now I'll get yelled at by all the boomers in the world. Thoughts? Oh, you want my thoughts? Screw you, libtard. All right, relax. Todd Blanche. I don't know much about him. I'll have to look into it, but let's read Trump's. Pam Bondi is a great American patriot, okay? And a loyal friend who faithfully served as my attorney general over the past year. Pam did a tremendous job overseeing a massive crackdown in crime across our country, with murders plummeting to their lowest level since 1900. Wow. We love Pam, and she will be transitioning into a man, so we need to respect her transgenderness, like Caitlyn Jenner, who's a big Trump supporter, okay? No, I'm just kidding. That's not what he said, but he did say transition. And that's where my mind went, okay, because there's a lot of people transitioning. Rachel, not Maddow, but she does look like a man, but Rachel Levine is a really strange character. Oh, health, Rachel Levine, you just transition older in your life. What's wrong with you? Anyway, back to the actual thing. We love Pam, and she is transitioning to a much needed and more important job in the private sector to be announced at a date in the near future. And our Deputy Attorney General and very talented and respected legal mind, L in legal and M in mind is capital because Trump can't spell, Todd Blanche will step in and serve as acting Attorney General. Thank you for your attention to that matter, President Donald J. Trump. Okay, I'm weaving a pretzel with my hands. Interesting. Todd Blanche. I wonder where Pam Bondi's going in the private sector. Is she going to go be a foreign agent for Qatar again? That would be fun. Let's see. Let me ask Rock. When was Pam Bondi a foreign agent for Qatar? How much did she make? Dun, dun, dun. It's like, oh, Tucker works for Qatar. It's like literally Pam Bondi did. She registered in July 2019, and she rejoined the firm in March 19th, right around the pandemic. Perfect timing, Pam. What timing, right? Right as 15 days to slow the spread. The Embassy of Qatar paid Ballard Partners $115,000 per month under the contract, while Bondi was listed as a key person involved in the work. There's no public disclosure of exactly how much Bondi personally earned from the Qatar contract. Interesting. How do you go from foreign agent to attorney general? Like, shouldn't there be a rule that you can't be the attorney general of America if you were ever a foreign agent? I'm shocked she was the foreign agent of Qatar and not Israel. Congrats. That's like an upgrade. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like Am I wrong for thinking you shouldn't be the Attorney General of the United States of America if you ever served as a foreign agent for anyone ever? Let's see. This is what AI is good for. It's good for like researching like all of the archives because it would take forever. Has any attorney, okay, let me rephrase that. Which attorney generals of the United States of America have been foreign agents for a country before serving? Let's see. Is Pam the only foreign agent attorney general in history or no? We will find out. They're thinking. The robots are thinking for me. Thank you, robots. I'll feed you a computer chip later if you guys are good. Hurry up, though. You're taking a long time. I might replace you with Google or Gemini or what's the one that got kicked out of the government? Cloud or something? Cloud Van Dam. I never even heard of that one, but maybe it's probably good if they kicked it out. That probably means it's like the best one that just won't like cave, but whatever. That's a conflict of interest, obviously. It's like, but people will be like, shut up, I like Trump. It's like, okay. This is interesting. Only one United States Attorney General has been a foreign agent, specifically a FARA registrant for foreign countries before serving. Pamela Bondi. She's the only Attorney General in United States history that's been a foreign agent. Isn't that crazy? It's just like this administration legitimately might be the worst administration in modern history. It's this and Biden. I mean, everybody's bad, but like, I don't know. It's as bad. Has any U.S. president ever taken as much $100+ million donations from mega donors as Trump? Anyone close? Let's see. Anyone close? Let's see what it says. Someone said most corrupt administration. Honestly, I feel like they're just as bad as Biden's administration, if not worse. Like every aspect of every person's administration is like scheming and scamming and working with like prediction markets, and it's a disaster. But here's the thing. When liberals do journalism, conservatives won't listen. Understandable. They've lost my trust too. But if someone like me comes along and tries to explain it to people, like, you guys care, but a lot of people don't care. And then it's like, I'm the bad guy because everybody's like too slow on this stuff. But then it's like in a year, everyone will agree with me, but then they'll just like never give me credit. They'll be like, oh yeah, screw you still. I'm like, all right, dang, screw me, I guess. No other U.S. president or presidential candidate has ever received $100 million+ donations from even one external mega donor in a single election cycle, let alone multiple such donors, until Donald Trump in 2024. So this is how big of a sellout Trump is and why he can't do anything. No single president has ever, or candidate has ever, taken over $100 million from one donor. Donald Trump did it for the first time this term 3 times. He took $291 million from Elon Musk. He took $197 million from Timothy Mellon. And he took $148 million, which he says is $250 million, from Miriam Adelson. No one's even come close. Dude, this dude has taken... That's why Trump sounds tired and like, I've taken too much money. I can't do anything. We gotta spray glyphosate. We need to give them legal immunity for my friends in Big Pharma. We got to do Pfizer deals. We got to host Bill Gates. We got to start the wars. He's too sold out. He took too much money. He can't even move. He's just like, all he can do is the YMCA. They're like, Trump, can you hand me that McDonald's burger? He's like, here you go. They're like, why are you doing it that way? I don't know. My Israeli mega donors won't let me do anything. I just have to dance. All I could do is do the YMCA and blow up things for Israel. And I could spray glyphosate too, because someone will make money off that. Yeah. My son's going to make a fortune too. He just took 30%. He just took a stake. My son just took stake in Salem Media. Ugh. And my former campaign manager is the chief strategy officer who's a foreign agent registered with FARA for Israel. Ugh. And my son owns part of the company now. Ugh. So my family's like literally like doing foreign propaganda. Ugh. It's like, ew. Don't make fun of Trump. I watched the moon landing and you don't know nothing, millennial. I voted for this. This is what I voted for. I voted for Zionist media to tell me what I think, and then I think things, so then I like what I think because they told me what I think. So that's what I think, millennial. I think what they tell me to think. I've been listening to Jeffrey Epstein's friends on television for 50 years straight. What are you doing? What are you going to do? That I'm listening to Fox now, and there's a really nice guy on there named Alan Dershowitz who's telling me what he thinks about Israel. Yeah, we might disagree on abortion. We might disagree on border security and Democrat and Republican and pretty much every value that I pretend to stand for as a Christian. But Alan Dershowitz really knows his foreign policy. I mean, he was a great lawyer in his day for Jeffrey Epstein. Wow, what the? I mean, but that's okay because, you know, boomers are like 1 month away from being like, Jeffrey Epstein's a patriot and you're an anti-Semite if you disagree. If you make one comment, you're like, you know, they're like, who told you to say that? Snoros? And you're like, you mean like the gay guy Trump let run the treasury that literally worked for George Soros? That guy who was his protege, the guy who worked for Soros Fund Management, who donated to Hillary Clinton. That guy worked for, no, not that. We like Scott Bessent because the television told him. I voted for this, you stupid millennial. What do you know? I'm so filled with glyphosate and high fructose corn syrup. I could sit and watch Sean Hannity all day. I could watch him all damn day. I'll watch him. I'll watch Mark Levin if you make me. I don't even like Mark Levin, but I'd rather listen to him than you, Anomaly, because he agrees with Trump on everything because Trump is handled by handlers. You were a huge Mark Levin fan? Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but it's nice that you've defected. I saw Dan Bongino. He's like beefing with Thomas Massey now, and he's like, Thomas, try to have a shred of like, what did he say? Did you guys hear the video of him like maniacally like yelling at like some journalist, like having a meltdown? Apparently, I don't remember this because I didn't like pay that much attention. Dan Bongino tried to run multiple times for a Congress seat or something, and he lost. And like a Politico person called him, and he's like screaming, like lashing out, like, ooh. He's just like bugging out at him. But then when it comes to Massey, Massey's just like sitting there talking, and he's like, have some decency, have some damn decency. Did Dan Bongino block me? Oh my gosh. Why is this thing not coming up? Am I blocked? Let's see. Oh no. Oh, he blocked me. Dang, I never got blocked by Dan Bongino. He just blocked me now today. So I guess I don't want to play it because it curses a lot, but I don't know. We'll see in the comments. Have you guys heard the video of Dan Bongino like lashing out? Because I was like, I can't even see what he said now. Darn it. Deep State Dan blocked me on Twitter. Oh, well. When Dan was like annoyed at me like years ago before he got into the FBI, I just disagreed with him on something. Obviously, I was right. And he was like, oh, these Democrats won't leave me alone. That's why when he got in at FBI, I was like, I don't care about disagreeing with someone, but like, is Dan so stupid he thinks I'm a Democrat? Like, he's like one of those boomers that like anyone who disagrees with him, he thinks he's a Democrat. It's like, hey, sir, your shoe's untied. I don't want you to trip. Oh, shut up, liberal. No, I'm trying to help you. Shut up, liberal. I'm Dan Bongino. It's like, you haven't heard it? It's like kind of loud and he yells. You guys sure you want to hear him yelling? If enough people want to hear it, I'm a man of the people. So I would play it, but just go to my Twitter. I don't want to play it. It's like loud and he's cursing. He's going to get my whole video demonetized. You liberal. Yeah, liberal. Trump could be like, I love. Uh, I don't even know where I was gonna go. He could be like, I love abortions, okay? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. He's like, oh, shut up, liberal. You're like, all right, bro. Everyone's a liberal except for Trump or something. You guys really want to hear this audio? Oh my gosh. I guess nobody's heard it. Don't risk the channel. Yeah, let's hear the outrage. It's like, it's going to raise cortisol a little bit because he's like spiraling. I guess I'll play it because he blocked me, in memory of when I used to be able to talk to Dan Bongino. I never talked to him that much because I think he's a psycho, but, he was like, have a little bit of decor. He's like, come on, Thomas, have some decor. I was like, oh yeah, it's Thomas who needs some political decor, not this guy who, when he ran, this is what Dan did, I guess, when he was running for office, and he lost, by the way.
You wanted to run for. Oh, Dan, why are you yelling now?
Go fuck yourself.
Oh, Dan, is that like an offer or something? Is that an offer?
Motherfucker! You shut your mouth. Fucking cow.
Hey, Dan, do me a favor. I'll handle the questions and you handle the answers. Just calm down. Oh, Dan, you really sound like you need some help.
Motherfucker.
I think you need some help.
Fuck yourself.
Okay.
You hear me?
Do you realize you sound like you need medication?
You don't know why. And let me tell you.
You sound like you need medication, Dan. Do you need? Maybe you need some professional help.
You have no idea. Shut the fuck up.
I think you need professional help. I think you need professional help.
Yourself. You don't know why I'm in Florida. Because
I know you're in Florida running a race and that you're losing in it by your attitude because you're swearing and acting out.
Fuck you.
And I also know that you looked at running in another district and you knew you couldn't win there either.
Hey, listen to me.
So let's see. That's three.
I'm going to expose you now.
Okay.
And when I tell everybody the real reason I'm down here, I'm going to expose your fucking ass even more.
All right, you're free to do that, and you can continue to threaten. You can continue to threaten me if you'd like.
You're a piece of shit. Because you're a lying scumbag, and it's people like you.
You haven't even established where I lied. We've already established in the record where you've lied.
Yeah,
and now you're acting out and you're swearing.
Piece of shit. You know what? Go fuck yourself.
All right. Well.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, I don't like mainstream media. I don't like journalists at all, but let's see if it's real or not. People are saying it's fake. Let's see. I mean, hopefully not, but let's see. Real clip. Let's see. 100% real. I'm looking. Politico call. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's real. I mean, someone said full crash out. Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't like journalists either, and they annoy me, but I feel like he has like crazy anger issues there. Yes, your audio is 100% real. It's from a recorded phone call August 21st when Dan Bongino, who was running for Congress in Florida at the time, called Politico reporter Mark Caputo. The conversation escalated into Bongino's profanity-laced meltdown. The exact quotes in the middle, "Go F yourself, you piece of shit." Caputo recorded the call. He told Bongino he was doing so. And so I guess they were talking, and Dan called him. And he was like, I'm going to record this phone call because he knew like Dan was like bugging out on him. And Dan's like, no, you're not. And he's like, no, I literally am. And then Dan just proceeded to like freak out at him. You listen, I don't like a lot of people, but I'm not going to like, I don't know that I've ever acted that way on the phone, like ever in my life. I don't know. Like I've definitely gotten pissed off. It's not like I've never been pissed, but that level of angry, I can't think of any time that I've done that to anyone on the phone, like pretty much ever, but definitely since I was like younger, maybe I got mad at somebody. I don't know. No, it is real. People are just saying it's fake, but it's real. Someone said, you got to blame the parents for the child to come out that way. Poor Bongino family. I mean, Dan he's a very accomplished person. You know, he's done a lot in his life, and you know, he's done well for himself, but to now be like shilling against Thomas Massey and just bugging out and endorsing Ed Galrine. It's like him, Miriam Adelson, John Paulson, who's the other guy, singer? They're just bankrolling the opposition to Thomas Massie, and that's what Dan Bongino thinks is like the greatest thing to do, is to get Thomas Massie out of Congress. I don't use these words too lightly unless I'm being comedic, but there's certain people that actually, and I'm not going to say Dan necessarily, but when I listen to Trump now and Pete Hegseth a little bit, they seem like possessed. And Trump is like inversion. There's one thing to disagree with me. Like Trump, we always disagreed on some things, but we agreed on a lot of things. We came together on certain things. And that's what politics is supposed to be. Like you agree on some stuff, you disagree on some stuff. With Trump now, he's like demonically inverted. It's like Thomas Massie's the best person in Congress. Donald Trump thinks he's the worst person in Congress. Marjorie Taylor Greene's one of the most honest Republicans we have. Trump's mad at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Dave Smith tells the truth. Trump takes the side of whatever that guy's name is, Douglas Murray. Megyn Kelly's a better journalist than Mark Levin. Trump defends Mark Levin. Trump is literally like, I call him a demented demon sometimes because he's inverted. And so anybody that believes Trump now in MAGA, they're believing like demonic inversion. You don't have to like Thomas Massie. You could say Thomas Massie's too soft, he's too libertarian or whatever. Not only is Thomas Massie not the worst person in Congress, there's no way any reasonable right-winger could think that Thomas Massie is a top 20, 30, 40, 50 worst people in Congress. There's people that I don't like as much as Thomas Massie that I know are better people in Congress. Lauren Boebert is better than most of Congress. Anna Paulina Luna is better than most of Congress. I liked Marjorie better than most of Congress. I used to like Matt Gaetz, even though I didn't agree with him on a lot. These are not my top 5 favorite people in the world or anything, but I could identify, even though I don't trust them on everything, that they're better than half of Congress, at least, at bare minimum, because half of Congress is so demonic, you don't even know who they are because they're just like voting with like Nancy Pelosi. There's no possible way any reasonable, good person would be like, oh yeah, Massie's the worst person in Congress. He's, in my view, the best person in Congress, undebatably a top 20 person in Congress. Rand Paul, I don't like as much as Thomas Massie, but Rand Paul is one of our best senators, right? I like Rand. We don't need less Rand Pauls. Oh, we really need to get rid of Rand Paul. No, we don't. I'm fine with disagreeing with Rand Paul 4 times a year because usually he has a principled stance. Even if I don't agree with it, I get where he's coming from, or at least like I could, contextualize the argument that he's making. I like Rand Paul. I like Thomas Massie. That's what Dan Bongino is spending his time doing now. His enemy is Thomas Massie. When your enemy becomes a man who's not sold out to the Israel lobby, a man who's great at his job, an honorable person who puts the Constitution above lobbyists and political parties, you become evil. Evil is the inversion of good. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to make the greatest choices all the time. And I'm not trying to hold people to the perfect standards, but there's a difference between flawed human who's trying their best, flawed human who makes 50% mistakes, and then there's like demonic human who is literally taking the inversion of good. You know what I'm saying? And they're basically just, oh, Marjorie's one of the, and this is what people don't realize with Trump, why he's a Judas goat. He wasn't always like this. Listen, I liked and trusted Trump less than most people who voted for him. I would even go out and say I'm probably in the top 10, like 5% of people that didn't like or trust Donald Trump that voted for him. I didn't like him. I didn't trust him, but I still voted for him. And you can make fun of me for that, but I had my reasons. I wanted him to close the border, and everything else I was like, maybe he'll do this. He didn't do. But I told people, I didn't say he'll definitely do all these things. I said he'll definitely close the border, which he did. Everything else is a wild card, and clearly it's not a wild card because he's just a sellout. But I liked Trump less than most people. However, even though I liked Trump less, I realized like, okay, yes, he sucks, but he lets Marjorie Taylor Greene do her thing. He lets Matt Gaetz do his thing. He lets Thomas Massie do his thing. After he campaigned against him, he then endorsed Thomas Massie. Not to say that makes Trump a good person, but he was like a big tent for everybody. He did some shitty things. He did some good things. He did some bad things. He did some good things. That was his first term, although I would argue that his first term was a huge failure because of all the lockdown stuff. But I saw in Trump certain light. It's like sometimes he did messed up stuff. Sometimes he followed the light and did a lot of great stuff. I don't see that anymore. Like, I think Trump is like 99% demonic now. And it's hard for people to notice the switch because it's like, oh, you used to like Trump 7 years ago. Yeah, but then I got more evidence that he's just a total, like, Even 3 years ago, he was hanging out with Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm fine with you liking Mark Levin or something. I'm fine with Trump liking Mark Levin. But as long as he's still allowing Marjorie Taylor Greene in the party, he's now all Mark Levin, all Lindsey Graham, all Ben Shapiro, who didn't even like him a couple years ago. And he's ousting the great, like he's not only not draining the swamp, he's doing reverse swamp drain. He's finding the people who are trying to drain the swamp, and he's trying to suck them out of the swamp so the swamp can be untouched. Like he's a demented demon. He went from being like, he's a politician. Trump makes mistakes, blah, blah, blah. He's just straight up a demented demon. It's like he's trying to oust the greatest people we have and replace them with morons. Ed Gallerin is the biggest downgrade. From Thomas Massey, it's like going from like a prime Patrick Mahomes to like freaking, you know what I'm saying? Like Josh Rosen at 55 years old. Ed Gallerin is the biggest downgrade in Congress history. Like besides it would be like kicking out Ron Paul to replace him with like a shittier version of Dan Crenshaw. It's satanic inversion. It's like, you know what? We need less Ron Pauls and we need more Lindsey Grahams. We need less Ron Pauls and Rand Pauls and Thomas Masseys and Marjorie's, and we need more Mark Levins and Ben Shapiro's and Ed Gallerins and Mike Johnson's. It's like, dude, this is not a simple some good, some bad team player. We got to win the race. He's the inverse demented demon swamp drainer. He's draining the swamp cleaners out of the swamp to ensure that the swamp is completely untouched for the next 10, 15 years. He's horrible. He has to be called out. There's no option of just waiting and see. Like how could you not, I know a lot of people see it, but the people who can't see it, how? It's a bait and switch, but it's so obvious right now. Someone said the deception is downright wicked. It really is. And he's so tapped into the Israel lobby. Trump is like an empty carcass that's like possessed by the Israel lobby now, where it's like Dave Smith tells the truth and it says that Charlie agreed with him over the debate where he absolutely did a way better job than Douglas Murray. Trump posted Douglas Murray op-ed making fun of Tucker Carlson. Like he's literally like a possessed demon who every time someone does something good, he's coming with something wicked. Oh, Megyn Kelly, who spent her life in mainstream media, is coming out and telling the truth and not controlled by the Israel lobby. Every time she embarrasses Mark Levin, let's elevate Mark Levin. Oh, Dave Smith and Tucker telling the truth. Let's elevate the person who's making them look bad. Like he's literally evil. It's like, the election went from lesser of two evils to everyone trying to be like, is Trump actually more evil? Like we thought he was less evil, but maybe he's more evil. He's at bare minimum, like equal levels evil. So it's so wild. It's so wild to watch the switch. And what people need to realize, like, of course, a lot of people saw through it. A lot of people didn't trust Donald Trump. They saw the signs and they knew he was wrong. And those are the people that have better intuition. But I understand people who are more patient and want to play a little longer, where it's like, listen, I don't expect Trump to do everything. I don't expect him to reinvent the wheel. He's not going to be able to buck every lobbyist in the world. He's got to play the game. I respect that type of person, even when I disagree. It's like, listen, I'm way more hardline with my journalism, but if you don't want to be, as long as you're honorable and you'll call it out when you see it, but now you can't see it now. That's crazy to me, because it's not 2 years ago where Marjorie's by his side and Tucker's by his side. He's bucking everything good and clinging to everything evil. He's further away from the good people and he's closer to the people he hated. Like he's never been this close to a Ben Shapiro. He's got Caroline Leavitt promoting Ben Shapiro. He promotes Mark Levin more than any journalist in the world. It's like, it's the inversion of what's good and true. And I guess what's interesting to me is like, I know everybody in conservative media at this point. I know who has an ethnic bias towards Israel. I know who has a religious bias towards Israel. That includes Judaism and Zionist Christianity, because it's both. I know who's who and who's doing what. And there's certain people that they're never going to tell the truth, right? And although I don't agree with it, I understand it. I'm like, okay, that guy, he's Jewish. He likes Israel. He's not like a Dave Smith type Jewish person, or like a Norm Finkelstein, or like a Jeffrey Sachs, who's amazing. And there's a lot of great people that speak the truth. But when you see like a Jewish Zionist, like American, who you could just tell they're basically like, a Lindsey Graham type, they're never going to tell the truth. They're always going to be sneaky. They're always going to lie. They're always going to play stupid. I saw this one guy the other day who's like this Jewish comedian who very talented. He does a really good Trump impression. His name is like Sean Farash or something. And he's very talented, right? But it's like, he was like, oh, why is only 5% of Thomas Massey's donations coming from out of state? Or why are 5% of his donations coming from in-state, 95% of his donations coming from out of state, right? And then everybody commented in his comment section, they're like, well, Ed Gallerin is getting 2.9 or 2.1 from in-state. So Thomas Massey was getting 2 times as many donations from in-state than Ed Gallerin. So it's like, if that's really your concern, is like Thomas Massey's getting too many donations, then if you can't call out Ed, who's doing it even more. And the whole reason that Thomas is getting so many donations from out of state is because everybody realized that 3 Zionist billionaires that have dual loyalty to Israel are bankrolling millions into his opposition. So then average people from other states want to help. But even though that's happening, Ed Gallerin still takes more money from out of state by far, and he's taking a smaller percentage from in-state. So it's like, these people are not honest people. Like, if I were honest, I am honest, but you get what I'm saying. If I were trying to be an honest person, I was like, listen, I don't like what Ed's doing. I'm not going to accuse him of doing what Thomas Massey's doing more of. You get what I'm saying? It's like, that's what these people do, though. It's like, everything they do is a lie. Everything they do is sneaky, but they have a bias towards the Zionist side, but they don't want to really explain it, or they do. And they're just like, oh, but I'm telling the truth. It's like, but you're not, though. But I don't expect that guy to. He's probably going to be sneaky for his whole life. Okay. He has every right to be sneaky. That's fine. He could disagree with me or whatever. But the average like Trump supporter who has no bias, you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you falling for it? That's my question. Because there's going to be people in media that are playing a game. There's going to be people who have audiences who are not, America first necessarily. But why is the average person falling for it? Or are they not? Or they are? I'm not 100% sure, but I do think that if you look at Trump's fan base amongst like under 34-year-olds or under 27-year-olds, I've seen both of them. I don't know the exact numbers, but before the election or after the election, when people voted for him, he was around 0, where it was like he was equally like loved and hated by younger people. But to get even half of the youth is massive for Trump, because he has most boomers, so he was polling well with the under 27 crowd, with the under 35. Now he's sitting at like minus 50 or minus 60. He's lost like 50, 60 points in the youth crowd. And it's obvious, is because we all have the internet. We're all not super stubborn with stuff. And yeah, there's definitely some morons who are younger than 30, 40. Like, I'm not saying we're all like geniuses or anything, but we're not so addicted to like obsessing over Trump or anything. So it's like, oh yeah, no, like 20-year-olds are like, oh, Trump's cool. Yeah, Trump's cool. And then they realize that he's a fraud. They're like, oh, Trump's a fraud. But it's like it's the Republican boomers. That base doesn't move. Like, probably millions of young men voted for Trump and had high hopes for Trump. And then we're like, you know what? He sucks now. But the older generation, they're not moving whatsoever, which is why I think they're doing so much now. I think they realize that we need to do it now, because we only have a 5 or 10 year period. And then America's going to wake up to the Israel lobby. And what I'm guessing they're doing, if you listen to Netanyahu and stuff, he's talking about building Israel to a superpower, right? Israel's always been strong. Israel's always been intellectual. They've been technologically advanced. They've been shrewd. They're extraordinarily crafty. And because they're low numbers compared to like major countries like China, India, America, who have more people, Israel's always operated in a way where they've had to maintain power in a different way, through lobbying, in my opinion, through blackmail, through assassinations. Like, that's kind of like their thing of what they do. And a lot of this is documented. They've done false flags like the Laban affair. That's the one they got caught for. I'm sure they've done other ones, but they figured out how to maintain their power without being a superpower. And one of the biggest ways that they've done that over the last like 30, 40, 50, 60 years has been through their alliance with America that started as like, hey, let's be friends and work together. And then slowly over time, it's like, let's be friends, but control this. Let's be friends, but have no way of voting it out. And now Trump is like the ultimate Israel lobby, like puppet, where they pretty much get whatever they want, whenever they want. They know that this is not going to be this way forever based on how the youth is polling. So I think what they're doing now is they're using the Trump administration, Biden's weakness, and everyone in the last like 10 years, he's using them to achieve every objective that they've wanted to do that they can't do without the United States military, our government, our weapons, our money, and they're doing it now. And I believe that their plan is to become a superpower on the same level as America, instead of having to basically use America and control America, or at least lobby, leverage, and outmaneuver America. They want to be on the same level as America. And as soon as they're on the same level as America, if America decides to turn against the Israel lobby, they'll throw us on the side of the street like an empty carcass, just like they're going to leave Trump's legacy when he's done, just an empty, soulless carcass on the side of the street. And then they'll start working with other countries that want to work with them. So, I think as much as I don't agree with what they're doing, and I think it's wrong, I think it could go two ways. They could either piss the whole world off and make everybody hate them, like apparently has happened for thousands of years, or they can use America, gain power, then they don't have to care if everybody likes them or not. If they're a superpower on the scale of America, then they don't need America anymore, and they don't care. It's like they don't, the way that American Christian Zionist, like I get why certain Jewish people, not all, but like certain Jewish people, if you practice Judaism and everything's about your ethnicity and you're like so ethnocentric, etc., and you love Israel, it makes sense to me. But then it's like, just go live in Israel then. I don't know. If I had an ethno state that I liked and I thought was better than everybody else, why wouldn't I move there? Like, there's so many Jews in America, not all, but there's so many that they practice a religion that essentially puts them in a different level. And they're like, we need to save the world. We need to help everybody. We're so special. We're the chosen people. We're so much better than everybody. Okay, I don't care if you think that, but then why stay in a country with a bunch of goyim? If that's how your mindset is, why live amongst the goyim? Why not just go to Israel and live amongst your own people? I don't understand it. But then you have a bunch of Jewish people who don't think that way. Their whole life isn't revolved around their ethnicity, and they don't, buy into that necessarily narrative. And then it's like, all right, well, that makes sense. Just like every other country, America has hundreds of ethnicities. So it's like, that's kind of what America is. It was like a European destination for a bunch of different Europeans, and it's grown into a destination for everybody. But in general, it's like everyone's welcome in America. But if you like another country and another race that has an ethno state more than America, so much so that your whole life revolves around it, I don't get why you don't just go there. That makes sense to me. Now with Christian Zionists, Christian Zionism is one of the dumbest ideologies in human history that has led to the destruction of America and the Christian world. It's literally like the most retarded ideology in modern history. You are attaching yourself to a religion that has a book that says that your Lord and Savior is boiling in hot poop for eternity because they hate Jesus Christ with the same passion that you love Jesus Christ. You believe in Jesus Christ with a passion that they want him boiling in poop because they hate what he did 2,000 years ago. So it's like Christian Zionism is attaching yourself to the hip with a religion that hates your Lord and Savior with the passion you love him, that thinks he's boiling in hot poop, that thinks you're not them. They think you're an other group that's inferior. And then you think that you like that country because in the end times, you're going to be Revelation, create the end times, and you're going to go to heaven. And all the people that don't believe in Jesus are not going to be saved, yet you make no effort to try to evangelize people in Israel. If you thought they were all going to go to hell and be zapped out of this planet or whatever, wouldn't you want them to be Christian? Why isn't Mike Huckabee trying to convert them to Christianity? Because if Mike Huckabee tried to convert them to Christianity, they would call him anti-Semitic. In fact, when you listen to certain rabbis and scholars that are like the biggest ones pushing these anti-Semitism hate speech rules, they admit publicly that they believe that the foundings of anti-Semitism were Christians trying to convert Jews. So Mike Huckabee will never try to convert a Jew to Christianity because that's the origin of anti-Semitism, is Christians trying to convert Jews. So it's like you have Christian Zionists who attach themselves to the hip with a religion who hates them, but they won't even try to evangelize them because they believe in the word hate speech more than they believe in their own Bible. It makes absolutely no sense. It's ridiculous. So, it's wild, but I get why Israel's doing what they're doing. It's not, I don't think it's going to necessarily work because I think they're going to turn too much of the world against them, but it makes more sense than a Christian Zionist. It's like, yeah, let's use this country. Let's get as much money out of it as possible. Let's use their military. Let's steal their military secrets. Let's steal their nuclear secrets. Let's pardon spies. Let's fly them back home. Let's, weaken this country and strengthen ourselves off of it as much as we can. And then we're on the same level as if we'll cast them aside. And Christian Zionists will be like, oh, I thought we were best friends. Why though? Why did you think that? Like, we have allies in this world, but there's no other ally that people slobber over so much. We're allies with Canada. You disagree with Canada. We're allies with, England. You disagree with England. We're allies with Ukraine. Nobody seems to like their leadership. We're allies with, Germany. You question Germany. We're allies with France. We don't always agree with France, but there's just one ally that has a holy book that says Jesus is boiling in hot poop that we must never question whatsoever. And we must pass laws in America to say people can't boycott. Like, at this point, you have to have the IQ of a caveman to not understand what's going on. But, the chances of it working out for Israel are higher than the chances of it working out for America. I don't know that treating people the way that they do will work for them, but their logic of what they're doing and how they're using America has a percentage chance of succeeding. What Trump is doing and what Christian Zionists are doing and what American politicians are doing is, at this point, like, the percentage of it working out is super, super, super low. But it's tough. It's tricky for them now because they pretty much just can't, and this is not making an excuse for them, but they're so engulfed in this stuff that it's almost like too late. It's like too late for them to turn the boat around. So then they just they just follow it, and then they become like empty, soulless beings. That's why I have so much respect for a Joe Kent. We'll see what his true intentions are. We'll see where he goes. But, everything he's saying kind of checks out. He's saying in order to end this war, we'll need to restrain the Israelis to some point. If you look at their history from when they got to Palestine, they've been fighting, if you count the Nakba, all of that stuff until now, they've been battling with their neighbors for hundreds of years in a way that we don't battle with Canada. We don't battle with Mexico. We have minor issues with Mexico, but we're not in a full-blown war with them over the span of 70 years where we're sending missiles to each other. That's the Middle East. And I have sympathy for Israel because the Middle East is a crazy place. But at the same time, that's who they are. That's what they do. When they got to Palestine, they were like, oh, we're victims. Help us. We just want to live here. And then they just started terrorizing the people who lived there for 100 years. It's like, then they're going after Lebanon, then they're going after this, and they're going after that. You think they're going to just magically stop at Iran? No, they're dragging America into their mindset, into their ideology, and into their hell. And they haven't stopped in 100 years. If you listen to them, they said they've been persecuted for 2,000 years, that nobody's ever liked them ever, that everyone just randomly hates them for no reason. There were no cell phones. There were no landlines. Alexander Graham Bell didn't invent it. Nobody could communicate with each other, yet everybody across the spans of different centuries and different regimes, and from this country to that country, from Europe to America, just everyone has always just randomly not liked them because they just had hate in their heart, even though nobody could talk about it to each other. So it clearly couldn't have been anti-Semitic propaganda that people believe, because there was no communications between the countries. Everybody just always thought they were up to something or something. I don't know what was going on, but it's like the war's going to end soon. Now that America is combined at the hip with Israel, it's just never stopped for 2000s of years, and it's never stopped for the last 100 years. But, if we just beat up Iran, it's going to end. They're never going to stop fighting their neighbors. I mean, maybe they will at one point. I hope that they will. I think that they've had, someone said tonight is the night they ended him. I don't know what you're talking about, but who are you referring to? But anyway, it's like, I think Israel has had leaders that have tried to act a different way and not act this way, but they've gotten overrun by the more extreme leaders who want to act this way. I think there's, been politicians and people and movements in Israel to not do what they're doing now. And yeah, they've all been mysteriously run out or something worse has happened to them. So, I just don't, I'd prefer to not be a part of it, but I guess we are now, thanks to Trump and every administration the last 10, 20 years. But yeah, it's one of those things like with COVID. One thing that I learned during COVID, and I think that, I'm in a weird way, I'm grateful that I've learned this lesson, because for the first couple of years of COVID, it really stressed me out because, it's like we're living in a sci-fi horror movie. Everybody's retarded. They're trying to force vaccinate me. It's literally like every conspiracy theory I ever thought coming true, and then I have to live in it. It was bothering me for a while because I was like, dude, everyone's annoying me. They're trying to make me wear a mask. They're kicking me out of restaurants because I'm not retarded. It sucked, right? One thing that I did is I argued too much online in a way that was detrimental to my own health. And then also I like definitely like, I was like, if there's any time to like stress out and freak out, it's now. You know what I'm saying? Like now is the time because I want to get out of this. But what I realized like you definitely have to stand firm. You definitely have to be strong. Every now and then you got to flex on somebody if they're trying to like force mask you and be like, yo, get out of my way, bro. But you don't want to stress yourself out because it's like Buddha said, being angry is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Like you don't want to hurt yourself through your anger or your stress. Like you don't want to do that. There's no benefit to that really for the most part. So now, I want the best things to happen for America. But just like I didn't want lockdowns to happen, I really obviously didn't. I knew it was all a possibility because I was like, maybe I'm, like even before the lockdown, I was very zen. I was like, I really didn't have a care in the world. I was very calm. I didn't let anything bother me because I was like, you know what? I'm smart enough to know that this could all happen if I'm right. Like if my hypothesis is right and the government and big pharma is as corrupt as I think they are, then this can all happen. But I still had that innocent, young, purposely ignorant bliss where I was like, yes, I'm smart enough to know this is all happening. Yes, I report on it. Yes, I tell people the truth. But I hope and I could dream that the worst won't happen because I'm an optimist, right? I want to believe that it won't happen. And then my life went from, I'm in Los Angeles. It's a weird place, but I'm going out. I'm doing my thing. I'm walking around the town. I never had a car, so I walked everywhere. And then lockdowns happened, and I was like, damn it. Now I can't afford to just be ignorant and blissful, even though I knew what was going on. I wasn't like ignorant like everyone else. I was just like hoping for the best, and I'm like, the worst won't happen. And then it happened. And it was like, okay, now we're all built different. Now everyone watching the stream, everyone who's lived through this, we can be blissful, right? I'm a happy guy, but we know how corrupt our government is. We know how bad it could be, and we know how much they could persecute us, and we know how much the media is going to lie about it, and we know which corporations won't stand up with us, and we know the sports leagues will push the propaganda. We're well aware of who everyone is in our Truman Show. We know who they are. We know who's an NPC. We know who's a coward. We know who's a cuck. We know who's a fraud. And we all see it. So now we have all these wars. It's the same thing as the COVID stuff. You could find tweets of mine from 2019. I predicted vaccine mandates. I predicted they were coming for adults because they were doing it to kids and they were doing it in certain states. And I started reading the legislation and I was like, holy crap, they're coming for adults next. And then they did. So it's easy to be ahead when you follow all this stuff. I say all this to get to where I'm at now. I've told you about the Israel lobby for 6 years. I've told you about the anti-Semitism speech laws. When I first started talking about it, most people were like, shut up, Anomaly. I don't want to hear it. It's not that big of a deal. I don't care. Trump is crushing, blah, blah, blah. And now 6 years. When I first started talking about the anti-Semitism laws, when I first started talking about, the Israel lobby, when I first started talking about Zionism, Dan Bilzerian wasn't talking about it. Candace Owens wasn't talking about it. Tucker Carlson wasn't talking about it. Kanye West wasn't talking about it. I don't know what Dave Smith was doing because I didn't really follow him then, but it's like no one was really talking about it. Of course, Scott Ritter talked about it decades ago. Pat Buchanan talked about it decades ago. Nixon talked about it. Barry Goldwater. I'm not the first one. Ron Paul talked about it. I'm not acting like I'm the first one, but as far as modern media figures that have come out in the last 10 years, I'm not the earliest, but I'm certainly one of the earlier out of most of the people that people listen to. And the only thing I'm saying, I'm not dissing anybody else. I'm just letting people know I'm talking about it 6 years ago because I know it's like a building block. They're not just going to pass rules that they're not going to use. They passed anti-Semitism BDS laws 10 years ago that said you can't boycott Israel. 10 years ago, I didn't want to boycott Israel. Why would I boycott Israel? I don't care. Like they're just a cool country that I'd like to visit. I couldn't fathom why they'd want to pass it. Now I understand exactly why they wanted to pass those BDS laws, because they're going to do such crazy stuff that people are going to want to stop doing business with them. So the US government has to stop people from pulling out of business with them. Like there's a reason. Everything happens for a reason. So, now that I talked about the anti-Semitism hate speech rules 6 years before most people, now it's a mainstream conversation. Now the top 5 podcasts are talking about it. When I was talking about it, you couldn't find a top 50 podcast talking about it, let alone a top 5 podcast, and I don't need credit for it because, God knows, and people that know. And I don't even know if I want credit because then something bad will probably happen to me. So, but it's like, I say all this to get to the modern state of, I don't want anything bad to happen to our country. I didn't want to start a war with Iran. I don't want to fund multiple foreign wars. I don't want Trump to be blowing up infrastructure. It's like, it's not what anyone wants. I wanted negotiations. But now that we're here, the question is like, where does it go from here? And if you really look at how rotten our system is, Trump and Biden being two head of the snake examples, it's really, really bad. You know what I'm saying? And I will say that because of my, everyone says, get married, do this, get that. Of course, yeah, I want to get married. I want to have kids. But also, no offense, I don't want to end up, I'm not even going to name names because it's disrespectful, but I don't want to end up with some of these other people that people end up with where it's like they're living in the Truman Show and they don't, their spouse is like, acts very strange. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'd rather not do that. But with that being said, even though the economy sucks, even though prices of everything are skyrocketing, is it good for me? Of course not. I'm not able to save money like I used to. I'm not able to, do a lot of things that I used to do. But because I don't have a massive family to have to provide for right now, I can kind of get away with how bad the economy is, but I'm not going to sit and gaslight and be like, it's amazing. It sucks. It's affecting me too. But I'm not being hurt as much as the average worker is at this point. I'm just being honest. I'll figure it out and I'll get out of it. Most people, especially depending everybody's being affected by this, but let's just say 6-7 years ago, you're just getting by or you're doing well. Everyone's getting knocked down a tier, then 2 tiers, then 3 tiers, then 4 tiers, to the point where it's like, there's hundreds of millions of people struggling where they're like, dude, I'm in debt. I can, gas raising costs me $400 more a month or $200 more a month. Groceries cost me $200 more a month. I don't want to eat glyphosate, so then that costs me $200 more a month. You add up all the costs and everybody's getting screwed by this economy, by this war. Trump ran on lowering all the costs because it's like, this is what Biden did. Biden said, I'm going to start the war with Russia. I'm going to fund Ukraine and, all the COVID stuff. We don't really care. The prices will come down later. And everyone's like, we don't want the prices to come down later. We want the prices to come down now. We don't want to fund the war in Ukraine. We don't want to lock down for longer. We don't want to push vaccine mandates. We don't want to do all this bullshit. We first of all, it's not a good trade-off. But second of all, it's a lose-lose. The war in Ukraine is bullshit. The whole lockdown and vaccine mandate is bullshit. There's no winning on any level. It's all like, oh, let's do this and then fuck the economy up. It's like every part of it's bad. And it's the same thing with this war with Iran. This is not a win for America in any way possible at all. This is for Israel. Everybody knows it. The top 5 podcasts are talking about it. How do you not know that this is for Israel? And Trump is bent over for the Israel lobby. So Now the average family that's not brainwashed by Donald Trump, I know a bunch of Republicans that are doing decently, but they're not like the richest people in the world. They're like blown away by like how Trump supporters are acting. They're like, dude, I voted for Trump 3 times, but I can't afford groceries. Like, I'm going into further debt. The gas prices are pissing me off. And now Trump's talking about more war, and it's just going to be shitty for another couple months. I don't have any more money to spend. And all of these like MAGA retards and Trump are just sitting there like, oh, it's good for the prices to rise. That's the exact opposite of what you ran on. But your whole justification is saying, you got to get fucked while all my friends make money, and you got to lose a bunch more money while all my friends make money, because we need to do this because it's better for our country. And it's not even true. So it's like it's another COVID thing where both sides are a lie. Both sides are screwing over the American people, and it's for the people paying Trump, the rich people, the donors and the Israelis that are bankrolling him. So it's just like frustrating watching all of this stuff. And then he wants to make a budget of like $200 billion. It sickens me to my core, because it's like our airports are garbage compared to the rest of the world, but they'll never rebuild them. And there's no sense. I'm just letting people know now, like, there's no sense in even arguing with left-wing progressives and socialists and communists anymore. I'm not a communist. I think Karl Marx was a sneaky like banker son and a freak, but you're like, oh, we can't afford to do that because it's socialism. Trump does socialism for the military, socialism for big pharma, socialism for all the friends who pay him, socialism for, big agriculture, all the sneakiest people, socialism for the banks, socialism for Israel, socialism for Ukraine. Trump is an international socialist. He's just not doing it for his country. He's doing it for everyone else and everybody who pays him. So it's like, how can you sit here and tell me that we can't rebuild every military in the world? Sorry, we spent $3 trillion in Afghanistan and we got to spend hundreds of billions of dollars in Iran. With $100 billion, you could rebuild every airport in America instantaneously and have 50% of your budget still. It doesn't cost that much to rebuild an airport. It doesn't cost that much to rebuild infrastructure. Do you know how much $1 billion is? $1 billion is 1,000 millions. If they're going to spend $200 billion in freaking Iran, it's 1,000 millions 200 times. They could rebuild every bridge, every road, every infrastructure, every airport. They could make every city spotless. They could do everything for this country, but they're not, because they're not getting paid to do it. And they don't give a shit. They have private security. They have Secret Service. They have a bunch of money. Trump doesn't fill up his gas tank. You think Trump's out on a New Jersey highway because that's where you actually have to pump your gas? That's the only state that does it. Like, you think he's pumping his own gas when he's in Bedminster, wherever his country club is? You think he's like, oh, wow, this is really more expensive? He doesn't give a fuck. He has billions of dollars. He has private drivers. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't care about what the cost of the gas is or the food. You think when's the last time you think he's cared about a food budget? Never. He was rich his whole life. He grew up a rich kid. His dad made millions of dollars. He's never had to worry about that. So it's like, and then you're sitting to these people, oh, but this is just what we have to do. For who? For what? Why? And it's all with this idea that they were going to attack us. No, they weren't. They were mad at Israel, like the whole world is always mad at Israel. It's like, wow, Palestinians are mad at Israel. What did Israel do to them for 100 years? Wow, Gaddafi doesn't want to work with Israel. Is Gaddafi a bad person that you had to basically publicly execute? Yeah. Was he that bad? They're just going to do this to every world leader. And then they're going to do it to American leaders if they haven't already, Then they're going to do it to Turkey. Then they're going to do it to Russia. And then they're going to do it to China. And the whole world is going to be shit. And then their country is going to be fine. I think that's their goal. I think they care about themselves. I don't think they care about the rest of the world. And any country having leverage over them is something that they hate. They want to have leverage over every country in the world. And when they have leverage over every country, maybe they'll treat everybody great, or maybe they'll treat everybody like Palestine. Only time will tell. So, we'll find out, but the odds are not in our favor. It's wild wondering if people are even like right about it. Like, I don't know. I've only met maybe like a few people that don't seem to have a bias that actually like believe Trump. Everyone else I know is like, yeah, I don't want to pay more for groceries. No, like, I know people that voted for Trump 3 times in my friend and family circle. And when I talk to them, they're like, yeah, a year went by and the prices have not gone down. Because like when you talk to people that aren't just elitist people, where they like actually care how much they're making, how much they're keeping, how much they're spending, like nobody feels like they have more money. Like it's not it's only existing in the people's heads that are either making a fortune or like, oh yeah, Trump saved me so much money. On what? Where? Maybe I'm wrong. Like I don't know, but everywhere I've seen, rent has gone up, quality's gone down, prices are more expensive than they've ever been with pretty much every single grocery. I don't buy eggs that much, but I buy organic eggs, so they're always expensive. But in general, or like I try to buy the best eggs, so I know I'm not getting a cheap deal with eggs. But here's the thing with eggs. If you buy cheap eggs, they might be $2.99, $3.99. You know what I'm saying? For a dozen. I don't know. Maybe you can get them cheaper. If you buy expensive eggs, it could be like $7 or $8. But here's my thought about eggs. I mean, obviously everybody wants cheaper. $3 or $8 is not gonna like break the bank for just one product. So it's like if your eggs went from like $4.99 to $2.99 or $3.99 to $2.99, or I buy the expensive eggs, it's like that's $3 or $4 doesn't matter that much to me. Over everything it does. So it's like if eggs went down and I saved $2 on eggs, what about everything else? The price of meat's up, the price of everything else is up. So it's like, yeah, I saved $2 on eggs, but then my groceries were $30 more expensive and my gas was $60 more expensive and everything else. Like I can't see a single place that anything has gone down anywhere. Food quality is in the tank. All of these big places we eat at, or some people eat at, like a Chipotle or a Subway or all these things, the quality over time, they sell to some banker hedge fund who probably thinks we're cattle. They change the ingredients so they're even more garbage than they used to be. They jack up the prices. They fire a bunch of workers or whatever, and then they just make a fortune. And it's like now we're eating like dog food. So not literally, but it's like the quality of everything in this country's gone down. The quality of food's gone down. The prices have skyrocketed. And then I have to listen to some retard who listens to Sean Hannity tell me that this is the golden age. Like, at least just admit we're at war and pretend to be like George Bush or something. Trump's like, we're in the golden age. Who the fuck's in the golden age? Miriam Adelson and her ballroom that she's funding with Lockheed Martin. That's a whole nother grift that I don't even want to talk about. People are like, oh, you're mad that the government's not paying for a ballroom? I think if the government's going to build the White House, they should pay for it. We should pay for it. I'm not saying it's like the proudest $400 million of my life, but why should we allow Miriam Adelson and potentially the Lutnicks? I think I saw their name on there. Maybe I'm wrong. Lockheed Martin, a bunch of crypto bros, a bunch of random donors. They're going to build a White House building. Now, don't they technically have access to it because they built it? If you're funding, imagine funding a stadium and then someone telling you, you can't come. Sorry, you can't come to the stadium. What the fuck are you talking about? I funded it. I can go whenever I want. The people who bankroll the stadium can go anytime and sit in VIP. So now we're going to allow donor families to bankroll a White House ballroom. It should have been funded by the government. It's like, yeah, now they're just selling out literally property on the White House. Trump is the biggest scammer ever. But I can't say that because then people think I like Biden or something. It's like I can't stand Biden. But the average like Trump, nut gobbler at this point is as insufferable as a communist. It's like they're as stupid. It's crazy. Someone said the ballroom, let's call it a bunker. I thought people were joking, and then I saw that Trump actually said that it was going to be like, a bunker. And I was like, oh, he's not kidding. So we're going to allow families that lobby politicians to fund a government, you know what I'm saying? A government bunker, essentially, ballroom bunker. I don't want them to fund it. I want that, like, taxpayers should probably fund that. If there's something taxpayers should fund, it's building government buildings, but I don't know. Someone said at this point, I miss Biden. I don't miss Biden, but it's like, I despise Biden, but I am so annoyed at Trump for making people have to think if Biden was actually on the same level or better. Like, that's all on Trump. And people are like, what are you talking about? I don't know. Like, this trade-off of like, okay, close the border. Thank you. But then the war, like, I don't know. It's not a good trade, but I understand why people would still prefer Trump, but I think a lot of people are thinking about it. Someone said, when is the Golden Ballroom going to be built? The Golden Dome? I don't know. Someone said, you better grow your own food and raise some chickens. It's on the bucket list at some point. Someone said his friends are like rats. They live in tunnels. Oh my God. I mean, someone does live in tunnels. Not everyone, but some people do literally live in tunnels. Allegedly. They popped out of the sewers one day, and then we all just forgot about it. Any solutions? Yeah, I believe the solution to this, well, there's multiple solutions. You have to be the best version of yourself, enjoy your life, make the most of it, and do the most you can for yourself and your family, whatever that is. But then politically, if people are going to pay attention to politics and be politically active, then you can't just worship Trump. Like if Trump were as unpopular as he should be, and none of his supporters liked him still because he betrayed them, then these people would be like, all right, the jig is up. Like, they wouldn't be allowed to get away with what they're doing. Thomas Massie should win his election by 70 points. Lindsey Graham should lose his election. Every neocon should lose, even if they're replaced with a new one, just to send a message that, you can't just sit in Washington forever. So I think the solution is people need to pay attention. We don't even get close to our solution because there's 20 million people that are like, stop talking about Trump. He's only the president. Who cares if he sells out to Israel? It's like they're insulating him and creating a way for him to never face accountability for all of his betrayals. So, I think to be positive, I think it's changing. I think a lot of people are waking up, and Trump is desperately trying to cast the illusion that he's popular. He's doing what Biden used to do, which is like, okay, we know Biden's unpopular. We know he's a clown. Don't bring him out. Don't put him at events. Like, sit him in a corner, have him ride a bike. Like they had to basically stage, like a lot of Biden's administration was staged to portray the illusion that he was popular. Trump is starting to become that. I think he's becoming so unpopular that he's now trying to like, I'm 100% popular in MAGA. It's very Biden-esque, Hillary-esque, like cope. So I think there's a lot of potential, but and this is my perspective. Some people are allowed to disagree, but I think anybody that's still cock gobbling Trump is the problem. Like, I think that is the problem. I think if everyone that rode Trump's nuts were doing journalism and calling out what Trump was doing, then it would end. Like, imagine if every Republican journalist was like, holy crap, the CSO of Salem Media took $9 million to register as a foreign agent, and we don't know who he's pumping foreign propaganda through. Then they'd have to, like, no one would listen to their networks until they explained, okay, well, here's where the $9 million went. And, here's the people that aren't bought out by Israel. And it's like, okay, well, now we can listen to those people and know if we listen to the other people that they're pushing foreign propaganda. Like, that's what would happen if everyone did their job. I know we don't live in a utopian society, but it's the same with vaccine mandates. Like, what's the solution of not vaccine mandates? Well, on a personal level, don't get it if you don't want to get it. Now you win. You might suffer a lot in certain ways and you might lose your job. But if you held firm, you won over time. And pretty much nobody regrets like not getting it. So that was the individual way to beat the mandates. But we all had to suffer because everyone played along. You know what I'm saying? If 80% of people didn't get the vaccine as opposed to got the vaccine, we could have ended all the mandates 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So it's like there's always an individual solution, and that's what everyone should focus on because you can't always change the world. You have to enjoy your life. I don't want anyone to stress out. Don't stress out. Don't fear. Use politics for inspiration, education, intellectual stimulation, and and other things if you want to use it for knowledge, for wisdom. But don't let it stress you out. Enjoy your life. Do the most that you can. You could always have more, you could always have less. Like, you don't want to live where you're like, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. Enjoy what you have, make the most of it. But on a political level, the solution, and it starts with everybody, stop sucking off Trump. It's like the same people who like suck off the Democrats. It's like, call it both ways. Believe what you say, If Trump and Biden did identical things, and I'm going to read this real quick. He said, I could send you some organic beef, chicken, and eggs. My farm's coming along. By the way, Jesus was ended by Jews 2,000 years ago tonight. You got my deets. I was told that's anti-Semitic. I was told it was the Romans, even though everybody knows it was the Romans with the people that must not be named. So thank you for the Bible reference, aka your anti-Semitism. I will apologize to Ben Shapiro tonight for all of us. I'll apologize for you too. But thank you for that. I mean, I'll let you know, my guy. Just message me on Instagram. What was I talking about before that? I got a little lost in the sauce. Where was I? Oh yeah, the vaccine mandates. Or no, I don't know. What was I talking about before that? Sorry. See, I appreciate the super chats, but like sometimes I have a problem double tasking. Somebody will remind me. Someone said Tulsi's political career is over. I mean, she can just like be a Fox News talking head when she's done, or if she wants, but we'll see. Red versus. Oh, I remember what I was going to say now. Sorry about that. So if Trump and Biden did an identical thing, right? Like same goofy thing, same bad thing, whatever, something people don't like, and I said the same thing for both. I was like, haha, that was stupid that Biden did that, or haha, that was stupid Trump did that, or, I disagree with it because Biden did it, or I disagree with it because Trump did it. There's like, I don't know the number, let's just say like 20, 30 million people that they'll agree with me if Biden does it, but they'll disagree with me when Trump does it. Like when Biden does it, they'll be like, I'm on your team. And I have the same exact opinion for Trump. And they say, you're mean. You have Trump derangement syndrome. How dare you? Why do you talk about the president so much? Leave him alone. Like that is the opposite of the solution. The solution is not being that guy. Like, and most people are that person. So I don't know what to really do about it, but it seems like there's a lot of people like that. And I don't know how to snap somebody out of their own ignorance and their own dishonesty. Because somebody like that, at the end of the day, we all know ourselves, right? Yeah, you can have an opinion on Trump. You can have an opinion on this. You could say you're a liar, he's a liar, I'm telling the truth, blah, blah, blah. But deep down inside who you are. If you're being honest. And I find people with huge egos that are constantly tricked and fooled and whatever, or they're like freaking out at people. It's like, and they're trying to convince themselves through convincing you. Like they're talking to you, trying to like convince you, but they're really trying to convince themselves. So at the end of the day, it's like, only if you're lying to yourself. And I think a lot of people lie to themselves out of comfort because they don't want to cope with issues. But, it's like the person who drinks and becomes a psychopath when they drink, it's inside them. They just, they let it out because now they're drunk and they can't like suppress it anymore. I think people who act crazy or weird or do like, uncharacteristic stuff when they're drunk, it's inside them always. Like, yeah, I'm drunk when I'm drunk. I definitely like am a little goofier and I think like more loose, but it's like certain people, like they're like, oh man, where did that come from? And it's like, it's always been in there. It's the same thing about people. Like if you are being so dishonest that you believe one thing and then Trump says the opposite and you flip your opinion to that, like the conversation isn't between me and you, it's you and yourself in the mirror. Like this is probably not just an issue with believing Trump. It's probably an issue with everything in somebody's life where they're just like a pathological liar to themselves out of ego or like refusal to face reality. So then it builds up inside of you and it becomes a massive issue because, you can only like trick people that are dumb or that see the best in you. You can't trick wise people or smart people, and you can't even really trick yourself. So it's like, I don't even feel like arguing with people, but it's like a weird psychological problem that people have. They just can't be honest. I'm not a perfect person, but for me, journalism, the reason I got into it is simple. I was tired of the lies. I knew I could do a better job, and I did do a better job, and I continue to do a better job. But I don't understand the person who can't admit the same thing. Like, example, because I know I'm being vague. I don't like when Biden prints trillions of dollars and spends trillions of dollars because the more money he spends, it rises inflation, it rises the national debt, and then I'm poor. Yes, I agree. I don't like that. But then if Trump does the same exact thing, people will be like, don't talk about it or you're a liberal. No. Trump is a liberal. Trump is a socialist. Trump is doing what Karl Marx wanted to do. Trump is doing what Joe Biden did. He's spending money at Biden levels. So do you believe what you said 5 months ago? If you don't believe what you said 5 months ago, what's wrong with you? Like, there's something, it's not even about politics or Trump or being a Republican or being a liberal. Something's deeply fake about you, and you're lying to yourself. And it's probably an issue in like every aspect of your life because you're so deep down stubborn and foolish and fake. Like, it's not even like, oh, I got tricked. It's like you're just like, something deep in your soul is lying to yourself, and you just don't want to tell the truth to yourself or something because you're afraid like your personality will shatter. It's something like that, because I don't understand it. Like, how can Gunther Eagle, unless they're literally just like ops or something, Gunther Eagleman, Cat Turd, Eric Daughtry, how could they say one thing 5 months ago and then the exact opposite like 5 months ago, and not only say the opposite, like either they're complete ops and they're like, something, or they're just retarded and like fake to themselves. Because it's like, let's just say I thought something 5 months ago. I now completely want a war with Iran, even though I didn't want a war with Iran. I would have the understanding to be like, listen, I'm on this side now, but I know why you're there because I was literally just there. I literally just didn't want war with Iran. I literally just said Kamala would start World War III. I literally just said I didn't want ground troops. I said all those things. So I know why you're there because I was literally there 6 months ago. Like, I at least have the humility if I change my opinion or I make a mistake or whatever, or I learn something new or I change my mind, to have compassion and thoughtfulness to the other person, to be like, no, I know I don't agree with you, but I know why you're there. Cat Turd and Gunther Eagleman and these people, they're just viciously nasty to people where it's like they're mad at themselves 5 months ago and they're acting like they don't even remember. It's either they're the worst people in the world or they're just ops that are like there to, suck off the government. I don't know, and I'm not going to make false accusations because I don't know what's going on, but it's so gross. It's the same thing with Dan Bongino. I'm fighting the deep state. They lied about the Epstein stuff, blah, blah, blah. Gets in government, leaves, and attacks the guy who's talking about this stuff. Listen, Massey's done some things that I disagree with. I'm not going to lie when it comes to a few things, right? But that's Dan Bongino's entire thing now, is like he's mad at Trump supporters who don't like Trump as much because they think he's not doing a good job. Dan Bongino went from deep state fighter, joined the deep state, comes out of the deep state, and he's fighting people who are fighting the deep state. It's like satanic inversion. I get why you wouldn't want people to disagree with Donald Trump. You just worked for him. You think you did a good job. But the thoughtful person will say, listen, I know why you're skeptical of me. I went in the deep state. I came out, nothing really changed that much. We feel like we did a lot, but you don't feel like you did a lot. Grocery prices are high. Gas is high. Trump's starting a war. He's mad at Marjorie Taylor. Like, I get why you don't fully trust what Trump's doing, but I'm Dan Bongino and I think he's doing a good job. Like, there's a way to be honest about it, but somebody that comes out of the deep state and fights people fighting the deep state, like, no one makes Dan Bongino more mad than somebody honorable, than somebody honest, than somebody America first, than somebody who puts their actual beliefs over the president of the United States, a loyal patriot to their values over a politician who takes money or the Republican Party. Like, no Trump supporter was like, I'm a Trump supporter because I love the Republican Party. Trump supporters originally were like, I think most of the government's corrupt. The deep state's corrupt. 95% of the party's corrupt. That's why I like Trump. Now it's like, go vote for these Republicans in the midterm or you're corrupt. It's like, it's are these people just fraudulent, crazy people, or are they playing a role? It's hard to tell, but maybe it's a combination of both, right? Those are the people that are easy to manipulate, people that are egotistical, people that do not have a good spirit, people that you can manipulate with money or social circles, and they are willing to mold their opinions based on that. It takes, unfortunately, a rare person to turn things down. I can't speak for everybody, but it's hard to process what's really going on, but that's my best way of processing it. When I first started doing music, I got millions of views on YouTube. I've told this story obviously a little bit, but I've never like fully told it. Maybe one time on a podcast, if it's like a big podcast where someone gives a shit about me, maybe I'll go into like more depth than I really ever have, but I never had a microphone. I don't know if I've said this part, but when I started doing YouTube rap videos, I used my built-in laptop microphone. Like I didn't have an extension. It was just the one in the MacBook. And I had 100,000 song downloads and 1 million views within a year or 2 years. And I had no microphone. I had label meetings. I had meetings with massive distribution companies. I had people that wanted to manage me. They were taking me to New York in these big buildings where Neo was signed and all this stuff. And they would always just try to like tell me things that I didn't care about. Even at a young age, I never cared about like money and fame and girls. Like I got girls. I didn't need a record label to get me girls. You know what I'm saying? Like I did fine. I wasn't like the biggest pimp in the world or anything, but like pretty women always liked me. When I was in school, when I was in college, I did okay. You know what I'm saying? I did fine. And I didn't need that from a record label. I didn't care about money. Maybe I should have, but I did. I was a very soulful old soul but the reason I bring all that up, that's always what they tried to like lure me in with. They were never talking to me normally like, hey, this is what we can do. You know, let's work with you. Let's do great things. And then you could be rich, but like in an ethical way. It was always like, do you want girls? Do you want money? Do you want fame? And I'm like, not really. Yeah. Like if everything else works out, then yeah, of course I want like hot women to like me. Why wouldn't I? But you can't like just lead with that and have nothing of substance. And maybe the reason they did that is because that's how you trick most people. You know what I'm saying? Like most guys, if you approach them and you said, will you do this in exchange for a lot of money, women, access, and celebrity status? I think most men would probably say yes. So that's why they do it. For me, I didn't, and that wasn't like, I believed in myself and I knew I could get where I wanted to be without them. So I think unimpressive people that know they don't belong in certain places are easy to lobby because they know that they couldn't get that otherwise. Like, could Ted Cruz be a celebrity or an actor? Could he be a successful guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, politics is a great place for Ted Cruz because they act like he's a rock star. They talk about him on a Turning Point stage like he's Harry Styles and he's like disgusting, but that's politics. So politics seems to have a way of like lobbying retarded, stupid, unimpressive people and giving them things that they could never otherwise get in order to kind of like control them. So that's a human issue though, where if most people are willing to do that, then it's not just Dan Bongino's fault or Cat Turd's fault or whoever, whatever is going on or whatever is happening. I don't know, but if most people are willing to do these things, then there's always going to be someone to do it. So then the majority is never going to win. How do you fix that? I don't really know. Everyone can only like play their part. I do think over time it has become cooler. We always focus on things that are going wrong in the world. But if you really think about the last like 30, 40 years, yeah, there's been people who spoke out like Muhammad Ali and Michael Jackson. There's always been like your outspoken celebrities who risked it all to like, stand up against the machine. But if you really think about the last 30 years, we've faced major W's in a way that they probably never even thought was possible, to the point where you couldn't really get that famous like 30 years ago without their help. It wasn't even possible. And then with the internet, now people can get their voice out there. They can compete with major corporations, even if their back's against the wall. So there's been a massive shift, I think, in, 99% of entertainment sold out and they control everything, to like now dude, you probably know an account that I've never even heard of that's got like 50 million views talking about like random conspiracies and stuff. I'm not saying everyone's true, but there's a way for everyone to kind of reach as many people as celebrities. A lot of, I'll let you guys know an inside music industry thing. I'm not even like in the industry, but I do like to study and research and talk to people and stuff. Most like famous people aren't even famous anymore. Like most famous rappers, if you're Eminem, you're fine. If you're like, Kendrick Lamar, you're probably fine. Or there's like 10, 15 artists. Russ does really well independently. There's like 10, 15 artists that are megastars that could sell out. But the average like famous rapper that you probably heard, they can't like sell tickets. Nobody wants to see them. Nobody cares. And they're having like this weird thing with the industry where they've manufactured that these people were successful and famous. And maybe at one point they really were, but being famous 15 years ago actually meant something. Like, you're that guy from the radio station. Now everyone's famous. Everyone's got a TikTok. Everyone's got 1 million views. Like, it doesn't really matter anymore. So now the music industry is facing this weird thing. They'll go on tour. They'll try to sell tickets. Nobody buys them. They cancel the tour. They fake a health injury. They say they can't do this. Like, they're behind the scenes. They're putting up a music video on YouTube. They're used to getting 5 million views in 24 hours. They get 10,000 views. They take their music video down because they don't want to be seen with that many views. Like, there's something going on where the average person doesn't care about industry plants anymore because everybody's all over the place on social media. My favorite thing on Instagram, probably the most thing I've watched over the last like 2 weeks, is this Indian family from India where they name their kids like Little Mr. Greedy, Little Biggie. They give them like nicknames. And I don't know if it's the dad or the uncle or whoever, he's really smart. And he makes these like, little like courses and has them compete for like burgers and tikka masala and like random presents and stuff. And they're so happy when they win. It's just cool because it's like a sport, but he just made his own sport up. And he's like making these cool little challenges. Like every day it's like a different challenge. That's kind of funny. And in the comments, we all just treat it like it's ESPN. We're like, ooh, Mr. Greedy's really, he's going to be a top tier. He's going to be the MVP this season. I literally watched a random Indian family competing for like hamburgers because it's hilarious. And I comment on that more than I comment on the NBA. And I'm glad because I like that family more than Adam Silver, who's a freak. And, that you can't even be like Christian in that league and speak out against the rainbow people. But it's like, that's what I care about. I care more about, like random Indian competitions than I care about the NBA. And that's a good thing, though. It's like, fuck the NBA. Fuck Adam Silver. He's a scumbag. Excuse my language, but he's a horrible commissioner who's destroying one of the greatest sports of our era. So actual like, oh, I'm this rapper, and everyone's like, yeah, we don't care anymore. You know what I'm saying? And they don't know how to sell tickets. They don't know how to make money. I'm very fortunate because I have different social media. So it's like, I'm big on Twitter, but they barely really pay for that. I've been big on YouTube. I have like 40 million views, but right now my YouTube's really not that popping. But my Facebook is reaching like 200 million people a month or in that range. So I'm doing fine. And then Instagram, it's like I go through phases where everyone, like I'm getting 600,000 views. I'm getting thousands of comments. And then sometimes I'll get like 40,000 views. But I've diversified. So I don't have to just make money off music or this or that. But if your whole thing is like, I'm a musician, it's a really hard time to be a musician because musicians used to really like, make all their money on touring. And you tour by being famous and people want to go to your shows. But with everybody being famous, no one cares about anything anymore. It's like a good and a bad. It's bad if you're a good artist and you're trying to make money. It's good if you're, you don't want like mainstream media to win and stuff. But that's going on. And I think most people don't know because they're not going to tell you. But it's like how you're not making that much money off of streams. Most people can't tour. And when they drop new music, people don't care about music videos. People don't like, how often do you share an Instagram reel of a musician? I love music. I drive around, I play music. I love music. I listen to music probably every week, maybe not every day, but almost every day. Music means so much to me. But have I ever shared, like, when's the last time I've shared a music video with a friend? Probably in like 2016. Do I share Instagram reels with my friends of like really good musicians? I don't. I share like funny things, or I send my friend like, you're gay, or you're Chinese for 24 hours because I sent you this meme. Just like stupid shit that's like funny. It's like, it's like, I'm like, I just turned you Taiwanese. He's like, what the fuck is this? Excuse my language. But yeah, I don't know. I don't send like, wow, this is a cool A$AP Rocky song. Like, nobody cares anymore. Like, he does well, but it's just a strange time. Like, when I drop my music, I think my song's great, but I release it. I hope people like it, but I just have to move on because you can't like hold on to one thing because it's like next. I might as well just drop like 30 songs this year and then maybe one will take off. That's makes more sense than marketing. Marketing, you like can't really market unless you think of a really creative way. But yeah, I think that's happening to a lot of celebrities, and it's like they're not that famous anymore and they can't make money in certain industries. In acting, there's a lot of money in acting. There's a lot of money in movies. There's so much money in sports. It's like insane how much money they're paying these guys. Like he makes 40 million a year. 40 million a year? Like to be an offensive lineman, to be a tight end, like 40 million. I'm reading, I like sports. I read these contracts and I'm like, I want these guys to get paid. I want these guys to be rich, right? They entertain everybody. They make money. They should. But 160 million over 4 years. It's like, think about how much money that is. Dude, I'm going to work my whole life. I'm going to bust my ass and I'm never even going to make a penny of that. It's just like, just to throw a football. I mean, I guess there's certain industries that they really have a lot of money because the NFL is a good product and, you know, everybody wants to watch it, but it's actually like mind boggling, like seeing that stuff. So sports is booming, acting's booming. The top tier of music is booming, but I think music is suffering like a lot of industries when it comes to like not Taylor Swift. I've talked to musicians that are crushing that are like, dude, I don't even want to go on tour anymore. It costs a lot to pay for everything, gas, this and that. And then, you know, you're clearing like a couple $100 a show because, yeah, it's crazy. Someone said sports gambling pays them. I'm sure that's a big part of the industry now for sure. Maduro's kicking it on the island with Palm Beach Pete. Dude, Palm Beach Pete is like strange. He's like, I look like Jeffrey Epstein. I sound like Jeffrey Epstein. I have the same teeth as Jeffrey Epstein, but I'm not Jeffrey Epstein. Dude, Palm Beach Pete is a little too excited to look like Jeffrey Epstein. You know what I'm saying? Like he tried to get viral off of looking like Epstein, but then he's like, I like to play pickleball. I play tennis. I look like Epstein. Like you could just tell Palm Beach Pete just wants to smash. You know what I'm saying? Like he just wants some baddies to like him so he could bang them. I could already tell. Like he wants to pimp himself out there because he's like why else would you want to be famous for looking like Jeffrey Epstein that hard? It's not like a good thing, but dude, Palm Beach Pete's like, yo, if I could get my DS, I'm gonna do it. He's like, I'm a Palm Beach Pete, baby. And it's like hoping he just goes to some nightclub, some wasted chick's like, oh my God, he looks like Epstein. That's funny. He's like, is it like funny, or is it like come back to my crib and with my yacht funny? You know, like I could just, it's a strange maneuver. Like I get it, you know, he wants baddies, but he's like too thirsty for like, he's like, dude, my Instagram got deleted. Follow my new one. I'm going here tonight. It's like, all right, dude, like there's a ceiling to what you can get out of looking like Jeffrey Epstein. You didn't reinvent the wheel. You don't play a sport. You didn't make a song. You're not like making any sort of jokes that are funny. Like you literally just look like Jeffrey Epstein. You could be a Jeffrey Epstein impersonator, you know, but do baddies like that? I don't know. I think some chicks are pretty stupid. So there's just so many women out there. And if you go out to like clubs enough, I do think like probably some women are like, ha, 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 Jeffrey Epstein. Oh my gosh, he has money. Okay, daddy, you know? So I bet it works for him, honestly. I bet he's probably got like hella chicks off that, which is sad to even think about. But, you know, I feel like in my experience, not all, because there's a lot of really smart women. Of course, the smartest women watch our show, but, you know, the non-smarties don't watch the show. But I feel like a lot of women make a lot of really bad choices. And it's like, you know, do you want to follow this group of chicks all night? Like, you know, in order to like try to get with a chick, like most smart dudes are like, nah, I don't need that. I could get chicks anyway. Or, you know, there's a better way to get chicks. It's like the dumb dude who's like, I got the drug, you know, that like lasts till like 4 a.m. It's like if your main goal is hooking up with a chick, like, you know, some people are really desperate or whatever. And I think that, I don't know, a lot of chicks just make stupid decisions. So it's like the stupider you are, you have a better chance of like getting with this chick than if you're like making educated decisions. Yeah, I'm going to go home at 10 o'clock and go to sleep. That's not like the best way to like get a club chick. You know, you got to stay out till 4 a.m. And then they're dragging you to like every after party. And you're just like, do you ever just want to go home? It's like, let's go here next. All right, let's go here next. Let's go here. And it's like, don't you want to go to sleep? Like, what do you do this every weekend? How do you do this? I mean, I guess when I was younger, I guess I stayed out too late and stuff too. As you get older, you're like, what are you doing? Palm Beach Pete's like, he's like, yeah, I'll go to the nightclub, baby. Oh, it's that guy who looks like Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, I play pickleball. My legs are strong now. I got that pickleball. Like, just buy us more drinks and tell us you're going to. Anyway, I mean, come on, stop talking about that. It's inappropriate. You guys are sick. You guys are sickos. I'm just kidding. But everyone's like, how long are you going? Long videos are dope. I actually have to go now. Like, I have no choice. Jeffrey Epstein's right there, and he's telling me I have to stop. I talked about the Israel lobby too much, so I have to. All right, dude, I'll wrap it up. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. No, for sure. Okay. So I have to say this. Just come on, bear with me, guys. Israel's our greatest ally. They're the only democracy in the Middle East. Ted Cruz looks better than Brad Pitt. Lindsey Graham is really straight and totally wasn't at Disneyland with a girly toy. Can I go now? All right. Yeah. So I will be back, but I have to go to Europe to apologize to a bunch of rabbis and Ben Shapiro because I've been really bad and I want to be good. So I need to meet Ben Shapiro in a random European country to apologize for my sins. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. God bless. And Dream Rare Podcast, it's always a blast. I'll be back with more videos soon. Watch my tier list. If you didn't watch my tier list, I promise it's a good watch. And if I have pretty low expectations. I was hoping it got like 10,000 views on YouTube, but it didn't. And I'm like, why did people? I can't do anything new. Everybody likes the live streams. When I do like a video, nobody cares. But I was like, if the tier lists do well, I'm gonna do more tier lists. I'm probably gonna do it anyway. I don't even care because they're fun. But I just want people to care a little bit more. They don't have to care a lot of bit more, just a little bit more. And I got a few more tier list ideas to come through. So we'll see if it's there, the support for it. But